Okay, sorry about the delay there, but we should be live. We should be. Just give me a minute to get everything into place, then we'll get started. I believe there's a few people here already. Awesome. All right. First things first, let me get my sandwich ready because I've got a couple of sandwiches here. I'll show you. A couple of chopped pork sandwiches. Banging. Mmm. It's good. Needed that. All right, so before I get started, if somebody could let me know, as always, if the audio's okay. I'm back to using my regular laptop. I managed to get it working again. So the audio should be back to how it was before. It should be better. So yeah, let me know how it is. Shout out to Lucas. Hi. Know any good boxes that you could retrospect on? Oh yeah, I've got a whole bunch of them. I've got a whole bunch of them in production. I've been responding to the comments on some of the videos with some of the suggestions. I've got kind of a whole backlog of them. So yeah, there's a whole lot of them coming. I've also got my top 10 heavyweight list coming, which I'm currently devising, as well as my something I've talked about in the past. I'm doing a top 10 sort of greatest fights video I'm working on. Been thinking about doing that for a while. Shout out to Del Boy. Good to see you here, man. God bless you. Yeah, that's another one. Sambu Colombe. Very, very good fighter. Very underrated, in my opinion. And yeah, I actually did think about doing a career review for him, as well as Steve Collins as well. Was thinking of doing one for him too. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Shout out to Iron Fist. How you doing, man? Alive from Nordic is a great way to end a hard week. Oh yeah, man. I can't think of a better way to spend my Saturday evening. Can't think of a better way. Every time. I think this retrospective series has legs. You're triggering a lot of people, mate. I'm triggering so many people that I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it. Like, do you know what I was gonna do? I didn't bother doing it, but I was thinking about it. I was gonna make a video, kind of a compilation of. Do you know how when people leave a comment on a video and the comment doesn't get approved? Because how YouTube works now is you've got sort of the public comment section, and then you've got like a separate folder that you can access in the video manager, and it shows you all the comments that YouTube kind of filtered out and held them for approval. I was going to make a video just showing all the comments in that folder that I got for those videos, and I thought it would be pretty funny. Like, I didn't bother doing it though, because it might actually get me banned. I'm not even kidding. If I show all those comments, I might even get banned. But yeah, it's been triggering a lot of people, but I'm kind of taking the positives from it, because what I've noticed at the same time is a lot of people, like see, if you filter through the comments, you'll notice that there's quite a few people there who said that the video kind of prompted them to do their own research and check out some of the fights. And a lot of these people are saying, you know what, you've got a point what you were saying, and I didn't really think about it that way, and I've looked at that fighter's record, I've gone through it, and I've enjoyed the video, or I've watched these fights start to finish, and I can see what you're saying, and what I previously thought about that fighter wasn't true. Like so a lot of people have let me know that in the comment section, that the video kind of put them on the path to finding out the truth about these fighters, as well as debunking a few false narratives. And that kind of gave me a good feeling, because to me, that's kind of the whole point of the internet. It's to host information, and the further you propagate that information, the more you get to the truth. And that applies to a lot of things, and not just boxing. But I kind of think boxing's a good place to start. But yeah, it's definitely triggered a lot of people. And I've been having fun with that. Uh, but to be fair, I expected it. When I make those videos, I'm under no illusion that they're gonna set a lot of people off. That's just the nature of people and the nature of the internet to talk about his career. It's not a career I'm particularly familiar with, though. I'll admit I've not seen any of Donald Curry's fights. Like I've seen his record, I know who he is and whatnot, but I would need to find more footage in order to be confident enough to make a video. Like I was actually planning to do a video for Emanuel Augustus next because quite a few people requested that, and that's proving quite difficult to do because there's a lot of his fights, a lot of his more significant fights. There just appears to be no footage, so it's very very difficult to find enough footage on him to make a video. Like I'll still probably do it, but it'll just be it won't be as cohesive as a lot of my other videos. Like it won't be as organized because there'll be a lot of fights that I'll want to talk about in that video that I won't really be able to verify due to lack of footage. You know. Hey, good to see you here, Daz. God bless you, man. How you doing? Oh, that's good, man. See if you guys into chopped pork, it's beautiful. It's lovely chopped pork and wholemeal bread. Mm, I'm so hungry, man. Been doing my intermittent fasting again, so I've not been eating at all during the day. So like when I go to work, I don't eat anything because I'm trying to get back in shape. You know, because I took a couple of weeks off over Christmas there. Started going back to the gym this week. So yeah, doing this again. He triggers the weirdo trannies because he's among the base guys out there. Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you're based on the internet, like myself and like some of you guys, you got to be prepared for the aggro because you're always going to get aggro no matter what. You know, if you're the type of person who goes against the grain, and I mean, you don't even need to do that. If you're just the type of person who's generally honest and gives your true opinion on something, then you're going to get aggro. It is what it is because that's not generally accepted in not only in the boxing community but in just social media in general. You know, people want conformity. They want people to follow the script. They want you to recite their own confirmation bias. That's what people are looking for in general on the internet. And that's what I like about my audience is I feel like my audience, you know, the people that watch my videos consistently and are subscribed to me, they're free thinkers. You know, they're independent thinkers. They're people who are able to challenge their own preconceived biases, and you know they're able to be fed information essentially. You know that they'll see a video, you know, presenting a certain part of information, and they're able to view that information and think about it objectively and rationally, and you know they're not gonna basically spurg out over it. You know, they're gonna see the information for what it is and form an opinion based on it. I feel like that's kind of the narrow casted audience that I have on this channel, and I like it. Um, we'll see if there's more people out there like that. I know that those last 2 videos did get me quite a few new subscribers, and there's quite a few people that did comment and said to me, "I'm glad I found somebody in the boxing community who's willing to speak the truth about some of these fighters." You know, like some people were saying, "This has been bothering me for a while. Every single content creator seems to just say the same thing, whereas I come along and I say something that's right in front of your eyes, but nobody has the balls to say it." Also, yeah, my internet connection is it's looking a bit buggy. I've only got 1 bar, so I'm a little bit concerned about that, you know. Yeah, how's it going? You got no fans. God bless you. Got myself some salmon on the oh, nice. I had salmon yesterday. Lovely. Salmon tagliatelle I had. Not yesterday, sorry, the day before. I had salmon tagliatelle. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. In fact, saying that, I had salmon the day before that as well. I've been eating a lot of salmon lately. I love it. Yo, how's it going, Bruce? Good to see you, man. God bless you. Come on, man, you're eating. Nobody wants to hear that. Are you sure about that, Alex? You know, I was thinking I could be one of them. I could be one of them mukbang channels. I'll just upload videos of me eating. Look, I'll be like this. Like this. Mm, yeah, I could be one of them. I'm annoying myself by doing that though. I'm apologizing for that. Oh, the audio's good. All right, that's good. Thankfully, yeah. Like I was saying, I'm using my old laptop, the one that has better audio. So yeah, thanks for that. Oh yeah, absolutely, guys. Smash that like button. Pound that like button. Like James Toney pounded the canvas. I'm kidding. Johnny Nelson. Do you know? I could do a Johnny Nelson career review, but that would be a nightmare. Like it would be a nightmare to sit and watch Johnny Nelson's fights and prepare a video on him. I don't think I could get through that. Like I might do it. I might do it, but it would be torture if truth be told. Like that would not be an easy video to make because again, I wouldn't want to make the video without first doing a certain amount of research, and just seeing how a lot of his fights went. But I tried to watch one of Johnny Nelson's fights, and maybe I just picked a bad fight. But I tried to watch it, and I made it about a round and a half in, and I gave up. It beat me. Like if you guys are ever having trouble sleeping, just watch a Johnny Nelson fight, and I guarantee you'll be out like a light. It's a cure for insomnia. I'm retiring so I can duck AJ. You put me as the number one heavyweight ever. It was nice knowing you lot. By the way, Fury Chisora 4 if you get the chance, if Turkey allows it. Could you imagine that? Like, Tyson Fury and Chisora are so, like, what was I trying to say? They're so shameless, they would probably do that. They probably would. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. The weirdo, jobless nerds having mental breakdowns due to Nordics-based videos is one great unexpected joy. Mate, I'm not even kidding here. I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm not even trying to be um, I'm not even trying to insult anybody or anything. I would not be surprised if some of those guys, after seeing that video, went and self-harmed or something. I'm not even kidding because some of these people on the internet, some of these autists, and like you say, a lot of these guys are jobless. A lot of them are on I imagine a lot of them are on DLA or something, or they live with their parents, and they just kind of have this weird autistic obsession with a certain era of boxing. And these guys, whenever they hear anything that challenges that or that doesn't validate that's the word I'm looking for. If they hear an opinion or any sort of information at all that doesn't validate their autistic obsession, these people start losing their minds and they get very, very violent, very, very spiteful. You can just hear the vitriol on these people, and they will hold lifelong grudges over somebody they've never met. Like it's crazy, man, crazy. But and that I don't take any joy in that. Like I don't take any joy in anybody watching my video and just seething over it. To me, it's just one of the things I've got to deal with. When you're a content creator, and again, when you're an honest content creator who gives your true opinion on stuff, it's just one of the things you gotta put up with. Sorry about that. Just grabbing my cup of tea. It was on the floor. Oh, that's good. Nice cup of tea to wash down my sandwich. Saying that, I've still got like one and a half sandwich left. Um, it's hard to speak and eat at the same time. It's one of them. I couldn't be a mukbang channel. That was funny. That statement about a Marrowbone company top rank. Yeah, top prank. Mate, top rank. I tell you one thing, and I talk about people seething. I do think I kind of overreacted a little bit to that community post, and I'll maybe go into detail about that later. But I gotta be honest, top rank have made an enemy of me now. They've made an enemy of me, and it takes a lot to make an enemy of me. It takes a lot to make me hostile. But if there's one thing I really despise, this is something that I hate on a level of principle. One thing I despise, it is when a corporation tries to sponge off of an independent content creator or just an independent individual in general. That's something I really, really despise. So, look, whoever it was that works for Top Rank, whoever like runs their online business, you know, whoever it is that they've got in control of their social media or their YouTube channel, I'll obviously never meet this person. I'll obviously never even know their name. They probably live in America in some gated community. You know, they're probably somebody with a very, very high paying position in the company. And obviously, that individual probably doesn't have like any real contact with the higher ups at Top Rank. And they'll certainly never have any contact with myself. Like, if I was to try and contact that person and counterclaim or something like that, it would all be done automatically. It would all be done over AI, all that sort of stuff. You know, I'd be dealing with YouTube on their behalf. So I'll never come across this person and I'll never know who they were. I'll never know why they took those claims against my channel. But I tell you right now, and I'm being 100% serious here. If by some miracle I come across that person who made those claims, like if they just happened to be walking on my street, like if I just went outside and I knew it was them and I came across them, I'm gonna punch them so hard that they stop breathing, and then I'm gonna take their wallet and I'm gonna buy myself something nice. So yeah, I'm gonna punch their lights out for sponging off me and sponging off my channel. And yeah, the Top Rank have made an enemy of me now. I'll tell you that. Mike Tyson is the most overrated boxer in history. His fans would make funny excuses when he loses. Mate, that's the thing. And I spoke about this in the comment section with somebody recently because we were talking about James Toney. And they basically brought up a similar issue with Mike Tyson, and that is that every single time Mike Tyson lost a fight, there's always an excuse. And it was the same situation with Tony. Like, you know, with Tyson, whenever he'd lose a fight, it was always, oh, he was high the day before the fight, or it was because he left his trainer Kevin Rooney, or you know his Customato died and he was sad or whatever. Like, it's just whenever Mike Tyson had a loss or a bad performance, it was never because the opponent was better than him or the opponent had a better game plan or anything like that. It's basically just, oh, it was all because there was something wrong with him and it wasn't the real Mike. And it's just, it seems a little bit convenient to me. And like somebody actually said, like, because somebody took offense to me saying that Roy was leagues above James Toney. Somebody actually took a even though Roy beat James Toney and beat him convincingly. Somebody in the comments took offense to me saying that in the video, and then they said to me basically the only reason that Roy beat James Toney was because Tony had to lose a stone and a half the day before the fight, and I'm like, and I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, a stone and a half the day before the fight. That's not even possible. I'm like, that's not even physically possible to lose a stone and a half the day before the fight. So I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, so James Toney is scheduled to fight Roy Jones. It's the biggest fight of his career. So the day before the fight, he's sitting on the couch, you know, with his big belly. He's like eating Doritos and stuff in his face, like he's just been to a buffet or something. And then he's like, "Oh wait, hang on a second, hang on. I'm supposed to be fighting tomorrow. I need to lose a stone and a half." Like is that what these people think? Is that what they think happened? So James Toney just didn't train at all. He didn't have a training camp. And what he forgot he was fighting the next day or something. But this is the kind of crap these people believe. Like, this is the kind of nonsense that's going on in their head for how they justify these fights. It doesn't make any sense, man. And another thing, I knew people were going to say this, and I thought about putting this in the pinned comment. The one retort that the people have for what I said in the video was they said Roy said that Tony was his toughest fight. Like I knew they were gonna say that, and I regret not like saying it at the end of the video or something and leaving a disclaimer. I actually regret that. The James Toney video is great. Yeah, thanks. I like the guy. Style-wise, he's my favorite fighter, but his resume is filled with robberies. He's what people think Sven Oki is. Exactly, exactly. And that was why I brought that up in the video. That was exactly why I brought it up. James Toney. If you look at James Toney's resume, his record, his career, everything, he is guilty of a lot of the things that people criticize other fighters of. So they say, "Oh, Sven Oki never fought outside of Germany." Well, how many times did James Toney fight outside of America? Is it, "Oh, Sven Oki got all these gift decisions." How many gift decisions did James Toney get? You know, and not only that, these same people, a lot of these American normie boxing fans will say that when a fighter fails a drug test, they should be banned for life. Their entire record should be wiped. This, that, and the other. James Toney failed a test for steroids after two of his most impressive performances of his career. His two most significant victories. We know he was on steroids, so should his entire record, his entire career, just be wiped? It's that there's a lot of things that James Toney, like I said, a lot of things he's guilty of, a lot of things that he can lay claim to that you can really you can just sense the hatred when it's applied to other fighters. I mean, James Toney lost to a guy called Drake Thadze. Now, if I said the name Drake Thadze on a live stream without putting it in context, would you guys know who I was talking about? Would you have Would you have a single clue who that guy was? Of course you wouldn't. Nobody's ever heard of that guy. Well, that guy beat James Toney. Okay, he beat him and beat him convincingly. A journeyman with 8 losses by the name of Drake Thadze beat James Toney. But I even suggest that Joe Calzaghe or Sven Oki could possibly beat him, and people start spurging out and saying that, oh no, it's the great James Toney, number 2 pound for pound, nobody could beat him. Uh, but he had 10 losses and 3 draws, but nobody could beat him. He was unbeatable, I guess. And probably the worst cope as well is when they say that, oh, he only lost those fights because he didn't train. And I'm like, "Well, did he ever train? Like, what did he just go through his whole career never training? Like, because that's pretty remarkable if he did, if truth be told. Again, that's the kind of narratives that people believe. Um, I'd suggest you watch Curry versus McCallum. He did very well before the knockout, beating the bigger man. Unfortunately, he went over the hill quickly due to accumulated damage on a long amateur career. Yeah, I will definitely look that guy up. Like I know who he is. I know about his record, but I've never actually watched any of his fights. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do my homework there. And it's interesting because did I mention this earlier? I was talking about I was talking about Emanuel Augustus because I'm gonna make an Emanuel Augustus video. Up until recently, I'd never seen a single Emanuel Augustus fight. I'd only seen highlights of the Courtney Burton fight, the first one. But yeah, I've been recently watching a lot of his fights, the footage that I can find anyway, because a lot of them, a lot of his early fights, there doesn't seem to be any footage. That guy had a fascinating career. He was very, very interesting. And yeah, again, he was a journeyman, but he was one of these guys who, when you look at his record and you see how many losses he had, and then you actually watch him in the ring, you struggle to understand why he had so many losses. And you look at some of the guys that beat him, and this is what's annoying me about Emmanuel Augustus, because I look at his record and I see that he was knocked out by people like Jesus Chavez, and then I look at the guy fight and I'm like, how is that even possible? Like, so like I'm trying to find footage of the fight and I just can't find it anywhere. And to me it makes him even more mysterious and enigmatic. Very, very interesting fighter. I've got a lot to say about him and I'm looking forward to making that video. The James Toney video was excellent. Cheers, man. It really was. Why is he assumed to be an all-time great? Mate, I can't get my head around it. I literally cannot get my head around. All you would have to do, let's see if you knew nothing about James Toney and you just took one look at his record and look at the guys he lost to. How could you even like rack your brain to come up with a like the wheels would be turning in your brain. You would have to do so much mental gymnastics to convince yourself that guy was an all-time great. But you go to any comment section, any highlight video, any documentary about that guy, everybody considers him an all-time great. Everybody says, "Oh, he'd beat this guy, he'd beat that guy." I've seen people say he would beat the Klitschko's, that he would beat Kawasaki. Like, you have got to be kidding me. Again, he lost to Drake Thadze. Who is Drake Thadze? No idea. No idea. Some journeyman with 8 losses who never beat anybody. That guy beat James Toney. So how could you even how could you rack your brains enough and do as much mental gymnastics? Like, how could you do that to even convince yourself that this guy was even close to an all-time great fighter? It doesn't make any sense. It's like when people say that Ettore Gatti was an all-time great, despite the fact he never beat anybody and he lost to journeyman. You know, would you get a hair transplant? Probably not. Probably not. I don't give a crap about my hair. So yeah, I don't need a hair transplant. I'm all right, innit? Evening, mate. Yeah, good to see you, your old Dal. God bless you, man. Good to see you here. I've never been a sheep. I've always been a wolf. Yeah, yeah, same with me. Yeah. But not a wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't pretend to be a sheep. Yeah, the Tony video was good. I like Tony. Um, I rate him higher than you do, but you made solid, good points. Jirov could very well beat him. Yeah, I thought he did beat him. Like, that was an interesting fight. Don't get me wrong. Like, Tony had his moments. He had some big moments. He hurt Jirov. He landed some big shots. Mostly counter shots coming off the ropes, and he had that big knockdown at the end. But to be perfectly honest, I thought he got outworked and outlanded in at least 10 of the rounds. I suppose an argument could be made that quality over quantity, but sometimes, if you get outlanded and outworked so much, but then you land a couple of good shots, to me, that's not enough to take a title from the champion. So I thought Jirov won that fight fair and square. Well, he didn't get the decision, but you get what I mean. I thought he should have won it fair and square. Nordic, we will disagree about many things, but you've always stated your genuine, sincere opinion, and that's to be treasured these days. Thanks, man. And again, look, that's my approach to YouTube, and I honestly believe, and I'm not saying that my channel's like big or anything like that. I'm not saying it's a significant channel or I'm like a significant part of the community, but what I will say, and I feel like I can say this openly and honestly, I've always been straight with you guys. Like, I've never lied to you guys on here. I've never come on here and tried to claim to be something I've not. I've never claimed to have an opinion that I don't genuinely have. And that's because, and look, there's a lot you can criticize me for. I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of stupid things over the years. I've said a lot of stupid things. But when I give my opinion on something, you know for a fact it's my genuine, authentic, uncorrupted opinion. I'm not a sellout. I'm not gonna come on here and pretend to be some sort of badass and pretend to be some sort of baller and try to portray myself as anything other than myself. That the way that I interact with my audience is the same way I would interact with anybody in real life. I want people to know who I am. I want people to know where I stand. I'm honest about my political views, about my faith. I'm honest about the kind of sense of humor that I have. I'm honest about my views on the sport and my views on anything really. Because what's the point in lying? What's the point in coming on here and pretending to be something I'm not? What do I have to gain from that? There's so many people on the internet, and I've talked about this time and time again in the past. There's so many people on the internet who come on here, and it's like they're living out a fantasy in their own head. Like back in the day on the old Facebook boxing forums, everybody was an undefeated bare knuckle pit fighter. You know, everybody was a badass. Everybody in the boxing community back then is a former amateur boxer who had all these fights. Who was so hard. but you ask for details and you ask for verification of this, and they don't tell you anything. You know, everybody's, "Oh, I had all these," like Hatman, for example, guys like him. I hate to always bring him up, but he's an example of this. "Oh, I was an ABA heavyweight. I had all these fights. I was so hard, this, that, and the other." But you ask him, "Well, who did you fight? Like, what names have you been in with?" "Oh, well, no, doesn't matter. That's not important. You know, it's a long time ago. I don't remember." "Well, what was your record so I can look it up?" You know, "Oh, no, no, it's not really, but you know, I don't really remember. It was a long time ago. You know, it's not really a big deal, you know, but it like totally happened. I like totally had all these fights, and it was totally real, and I was so good, and I was like a badass, I never lost. I knocked everybody out. I was so hard. I was also a doorman, and and when I was working the doors, I was like the baddest guy on the streets. And I kicked this guy's ass and I kicked that guy's ass. Nobody messed with me because I was so big. And if somebody did mess with me, like I fought this 6'8" guy and I battered him because I'm so like it's that kind of that was the kind of person you'd come across in the boxing community. You know, everybody was a hard man. Everybody was a badass. Everybody was an ex-fighter, but none of them have any footage. None of them have any record that they can show you to verify their level of commit. You know, their level of involvement in the sport. Nothing. You know, if you guys want to know my level of involvement in the sport, I'll tell you. I've never competed in my life. You know, but I have boxed. You know, I've been around it a lot. But it's just there's so many insincere individuals on the internet and on social media in general. And I've always, ever since I first made this channel, I've always wanted to be sincere and I've always wanted to be honest. Because what's the point in lying? Again, what do I have to gain from lying? You know? Tony, absolute legend, but maybe not a great. Yeah, yeah. Tony's a very, very interesting fighter to watch. He had an interesting style. He had certain genetic gifts, and like I said in the video, you know, he had a way of fighting very lazy and very uncommitted, but making his opponents fight his kind of fight. You know, he was very good at dragging you down to his level. You know, some fighters are just very good at that. But what James Toney wasn't was he wasn't an all time great. He wasn't even I would say world class. You know, because he didn't prove it in the ring. You know, he didn't fight the best competition, and when he did fight genuine world class opposition, he generally lost. When he fought decent contenders, he either lost or got a gift, and he even lost to journeyman in his career. So again, what is there to go on? Like, where did this narrative come from? I don't understand it. I can't get my head around it. Where did this narrative come from that he was an all-time great fighter, or that he was pound for pound level? Or like, when did he ever prove that? You know, what about his record, his resume, or anything involving him? You know, anything that you could show me, you know, footage wise in the ring. What about it tells you or would tell me or anybody that he's an all-time great? I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like when people again I use a Toro Gatti. Again, another fighter I like, a fighter I'm a fan of. How on earth is a Toro Gatti an all-time great? But people say he was. I mean, who did he? I asked people to name me someone he fought, and off the top of their or someone he beat, off the top of their head, they can't even think of anybody because he didn't beat anybody of note his whole career. So you know, but there's but he's in the Hall of Fame. Well, if that's the case, then that exposes the Hall of Fame for being extremely selective, and not in terms of how good the fighter is. You know, it has nothing to do with how good you are. It has nothing to do with greatness. It's all to do with popularity and where you come from and what you look like. Obviously, you know, because if you're Polish or something, you could be 48-0, and you could have the record for world title defenses in your division. But because your name's Mikulchevsky, and you're from Poland and you didn't fight in America, you're not going to get in there, you know. So I get, which is, by the way, I mean, you could make an argument that that's racism, right, or prejudice. Could you not? You know, I had salmon yesterday. Also, oh, it's beautiful, man. Oh yeah, absolutely, great protein. So see, I've been like gorging myself on protein. Like, obviously, I'm eating a sandwich today because it's the weekend. Who cares? I've been eating so much protein lately, so much fish, so much meat because I need it, man. I need it for recovery. I started pumping iron again this week, so I need it. Salmon tagliatelle. Oh yeah, yeah. My girlfriend's spoiling me. Yeah, she's a good cook, by the way. She makes good dinners. I've got to admit, she does. And yeah, salmon tagliatelle. That's one of my favorite dinners that she makes. Oh yeah, God bless you, man. God bless you. Good to see you here. Great couple of videos, man. Thanks, man. God bless you. And I know I kind of spurged out a little bit in that community post because I was irritated. I was seething a bit about Top Rank, but I'm not gonna stop making videos. Look, Top Rank can sponge off my videos all they want. They'll get their comeuppance eventually. But I'm not gonna stop. Like that's only motivated me even more to expose frauds in boxing and to give credit to fighters who deserve it. You know, like when I made that Larry Holmes video, that was one that I don't really know how to describe it, but I felt like I was the first person in the YouTube boxing community. Maybe I wasn't the first, but I was definitely one of the ones who put the most thought into it. Giving that guy credit for being a true innovator in boxing, because people will say Larry Holmes was a great fighter, this, that, and the other. Some people have him like top five at heavyweight, but I don't think he gets a lot of credit for the innovation that he brought to boxing. That guy was very, very ahead of his time. He was very advanced for that era. And I feel like a lot of fighters, like for example, Tyson Fury, I know for a fact Tyson Fury studied Larry Holmes because Tyson Fury used to talk about Larry Holmes versus Jerry Cooney. You might remember when Fury did that face off with David Haye on ringside years ago. He talked about Jerry Cooney being. I think Jerry Cooney is a. I think he's a gypsy or he's some sort of. He's from some sort of community that is familiar with Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury talked about he watched that fight and studied it, and he has some unpopular opinions on that fight, and you could tell that Tyson Fury has really really studied Larry Holmes. That was one of his inspirations in terms of how he fights. And I think he's not alone in that. Larry Holmes is one of these guys that he doesn't get a lot of credit for it because a lot of people don't like him because of what he did to Ali. A lot of people felt it was in poor taste, this, that, and the other, and that fight should never have happened. But that's not his fault. He was doing his job. You could have said the same thing about Mike Tyson and what he did to him. So, but Tyson doesn't get the same kind of vitriol and hatred that Larry Holmes got for his performance against Ali. So yeah, and I felt like that video. I really felt called to make that video, if you know what I mean. I really wanted to give Larry Holmes his props because even though I'm not that big a fan of Larry Holmes as a person, he does seem like quite a negative individual. But as a fighter, that guy was really, really underrated and really ahead of his time. He really was. Yeah, thanks, man. Oh, bloody there's bloody things lagging, you know. Right, here we are. Were there are a lot of Asians in Nottingham? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Not Nottingham. A lot of people don't know this. Nottingham was um, one of the most multicultural cities in Europe, or at least it was when I was growing up. Don't know if it is now, but it was when I was growing up. I think it was the most multicultural city in Britain at one point, if I remember rightly. Yeah, I had a lot of friends who were Asian. A Richie Woodall career retro would be fascinating. Great fighter who got injured, still won a world title with a bad arm. Yeah, Richie Woodall was okay. I don't think Richie Woodall was world class. I don't think he was a great fighter, but I think he did very well to win a title. And he beat a decent opponent for that title. Tulani Malinga. And let's not forget, Tulani Malinga, didn't he beat Chris Eubank? And he also beat Robin Reed too, and those two are considered world class. So the fact that Richie Woodall was able to beat him, and I know he did get him at the right time, but the fact that Richie Woodall was able to beat him was quite an accomplishment when you consider kind of the what should have been like a big skill gap, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to make. The ironic thing about Johnny Nelson is he was known as the Entertainer. That's got to be the most ironic nickname ever. Johnny Nelson, the Entertainer. Man, that is hilarious. That's so funny. That would be like calling Sonny Edwards the Hulk or something, or Big Man, you know? What are some new retrospective you're working well, as I was saying before, I'm gonna do, Emanuel Augustus, as somebody just requested there, probably Richie Woodall at some point. Um, I'm also doing my top 10, best heavyweights of all time, as well as my top 10, best fights of all time, you know, my favorite fights essentially to watch, and, um, yeah, Donald Curry as well. Whole bunch of fighters. I've got so many on my backlog. I've actually got like a big list of them. The German scene in the 2000s was interesting. Arthur Abraham, Felix Sturm, Stieglitz, Hook. Oh yeah, those were some of my favorite fighters to watch. Like those guys were really really entertaining. 70s boxing fans be like, Small Joe Fraser has better work rate than Tyson and the Klitschko brothers, so he win. Yeah, but like when they say work rate, that's because he like Fraser did have great work rate. Don't get me wrong, but he needed that work rate in order to compensate for his lack of skill, because all he did was come forward, bob and weave, and throw the left hook. So he had to throw a lot of punches in order to compete at world level. If he didn't throw like a crazy amount of shots and didn't just sell out like that, he would have just gotten outboxed and picked apart at long range by taller guys, you know? What happened? Oh, are you referring to the, copyright claim? Yeah, somebody from Top Rank decided to claim my last 2 videos. I think there was, like, 2 seconds of footage or whatever that they claimed, and they decided to claim the whole video, and I thought about counterclaiming because I could do that. Like, I've got a case that because I've done that before. Like, basically, disputed this. I've had this on my other channel. I've disputed copyright claims, and I've won every single case due to either well, it was a little bit different because the case that I would have to take out with this channel would be due to fair use. But on my other channel, it was literally just companies that don't own the footage trying to claim my footage or claim audio that's in my footage, and yeah, those were completely fraudulent. But I could probably win it if I disputed it and counterclaim them because they've cost me my revenue. Counterclaim them over a few quid or something. But I'm not gonna bother right now, because I just can't be bothered with the aggro. But yeah, some little weasel clown who works for Top Rank decided to take copyright claims over my last 2 videos and, yeah, claim it as their own. That was what happened. You're right, some of the copyright claims on YouTube make no sense whatsoever. I had one on my other channel for using 8 seconds of footage, and you see, that doesn't make sense. 8 seconds of footage, that clearly comes under fair use, and it also with the videos that you make on your channel, that comes under journalism, and journalism is supposed to be protected under copyright law. You're supposed to be able to use footage if you're using it for a presentation in order to propagate information. Right, there's supposed to be laws in place to support that. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't enforce those laws. They allow any Tom, Dick, and Harry out there to make a claim. Like on my last video, I uploaded some gameplay footage, right? Because I was demonstrating something from a game, and some company, some pirate organization, decided to re-upload one of the music tracks from the game, which is an unlicensed track that doesn't have any like license ownership, but they decided to re-upload it and claim that it was their track. They gave it a different name. So obviously I disputed that, and they immediately removed the claim because they realized that they could get in serious trouble if they didn't. But what's annoying about it is YouTube allows them to take a claim without justifying that they own the footage or the audio or anything. And if you dispute it, they give you 30 days or they give them 30 days to respond to the dispute. So I could have a copyright claim on my channel for 30 days, costing me my revenue, costing me potential views just because they don't respond. And then obviously, if they don't respond in time, the claim gets removed. But it's just, I don't understand why YouTube rewards the claimants, but it doesn't have any system in place to protect the content creator. Like, I don't understand it at all. It's never made sense to me. I bet I can guess what they. Oh yeah, I can guess what the top rank employee looks like. Probably about 5'2". Probably like weighs about 100 pounds, soaking wet. Probably wears glasses. Probably wears a pussy hat. You know, probably jacks off to James Toney. I don't know. Feels like copyright claims are a good way to shut people up. They are terribly abused, illegally abused. Absolutely. That's why, I suspect anyway, that was why they took the claim out. They took the claim out because I was exposing a couple of very, very popular narratives in boxing, and Top Rank, as well as the boxing establishment in America in general, don't want that information out there. You know, they don't want us propagating information. What they want is us falling in line and telling people what they want to hear, because it continues to promote the product. You know, consume product, get excited for next product. Hey Nordic, Alan Green, can you make a retrospective about him? That's another good shout as well. It's another good shout. Don't think he was a very good fighter, but he was interesting. You know, I could do that. It's not a bad shout at all. So yeah, probably will do that at some point. He did have a couple of good fights, to be fair. Roy was a compulsive liar. Yeah, he was. So I don't take anything he says seriously. So when Roy says that James Toney was his toughest fight, and then I see him getting beaten up and knocked out by other guys, I struggle to take that seriously. You know, Mike is overrated, but at least he never got gift. Ali lost to Norton 3 times, Cooper and Jimmy Young, so he should have 8 losses. I agree. Oh, Mike was definitely better than Ali, no doubt about it. Yeah, James Toney is a certified Hall of CTE. I mean, the guy was slurring his speech and severely brain damaged by age 30, but you know, he had such great defense. He was like totally unhittable, you know, amazing defense. The reality is James Toney was a fighter who always pissed away his talent. Yeah, he did. And you know, maybe if he'd have taken the sport seriously and trained harder, he could have been a great fighter. But the fact of the matter is he wasn't, and he didn't, you know? So what am I supposed to do? Just pretend? Am I just supposed to pretend he trained? You know? Am I supposed to pretend he was at his full potential, you know? Could Calzaghe 1000% beats any version of James Toney. Exactly. How on earth would James Toney deal with that kind of work rate? He got beaten up, schooled, dominated, and absolutely exposed by Dave Tiberi. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the criticism Calzaghe would have gotten if he'd have struggled with a guy like Dave Tiberi? Could you imagine that? Seriously. I'm like, that is a mismatch. That fight. I'm not even joking. That fight is a mismatch. It is. Calzaghe would win every second of every round of that fight. And I had someone else, some smart ass, in the comments. He came in and he said, "I bet this guy thinks Joe Calzaghe is the greatest super middleweight ever." And I stopped for a second, and I'm like, what? I'm like, he objectively is. What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, name one better. Like, oh come on, man, crazy, crazy. Was James Toney ever in good shape? Yeah, he never looked in. Well, he looked in pretty good shape at middleweight, but aside from that, no, I don't think he ever looked in great shape. You know, yeah, his best shape was likely when he hopped on PEDs. Exactly, he had his 2 best performances of his career, then tested positive for steroids. I mean, work that one out. It doesn't take a genius to work that out, does it? I used all kinds of Usyk Fury footage to predict the fight. DAZN had no problem there. When I used the footage to show Fury didn't win a round, second fight copyright strike. Exactly. See precise. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They took the copyright claim against you there because you were exposing the post fight narrative. They were trying to push the robbery narrative or the close fight narrative, and you exposed that. You propagated information. You know, you put some information out there. You convinced people to look at the fight a different way and rewatch it and score it objectively. And I guarantee you that's what people would have done in the aftermath of seeing that video. But because you did that, DAZN had a problem with it. And we're like, all right, let's shut this guy down. Let's shut his video down. Let's stop it from getting the reach that it deserves, you know? I heard somewhere Tony only did sparring to see, people say that. I don't know if that was true. I mean, I don't doubt sparring was the main aspect to his training, but I have to imagine he did other things as well. But yeah, I could believe sparring was his main training method, and sparring's by far the best training method anyway. You know, it's just normalization. People fall in line like a sheep. Exactly. And when they see somebody that doesn't fall in line, when they see somebody that's saying something that challenges popular mainstream opinion, they start spurging out. They start panicking. I genuinely think these people panic when they see that. And because, like, I'll even see it on my other channel. I had people on my other channel saying that they unsubscribed to me because I gave a negative review for a game that got positive scores on release. You know, because I gave my honest opinion on a game, I happen to not like it, and I made like a 45-minute video explaining why. They're like, this video is rage bait. You're a scumbag. I'm unsubscribing for you. Like, again, it's the same as the boxing community. You know, you got the same kinds of people all across the internet, and it's tiresome, man. It's tiresome to have to deal with. Yeah, if you tell a lie enough times, people start to believe it. Muhammad Ali claimed that he was greatest fighter of all time. He said it enough times, people started repeating it. You know, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, how you going, Austin? How's it going, Austin? God bless you, man. What's going on? Now we're just talking about boxing, all of my last couple of videos. So good. How's it going, JD? Good to see you too. Do you find it easier to spar shorter or taller opponents? Do you know? Believe it or not, I find it easier to spar taller guys. You know, because of the way that I spar. You know, because I have my high guard, I come forward. I don't really like moving back. I find it easier to get something going against someone who's taller, who I can like slip under their jab and land to the body. But see when I spar someone who's my height or shorter, who knows how to defend themselves. Like I sparred with a pro recently back in December there. I told you guys about this. And basically, I couldn't find a target on this guy. You know, this guy's kind of a come forward counter puncher. You know, he shows up, gets inside, he'll sidestep kind of like Lomachenko, and he'll throw hooks and uppercuts inside. And when this guy was like right in front of me, and I was like physically strong enough to kind of like manhandle him inside, but I couldn't find a target to land any of my punches. And just when I thought I had his punches defensed, he would catch me with an uppercut to the body and I couldn't see it coming. You know, it's like he didn't telegraph anything. So it's like I find if I'm sparring somebody shorter than me or somebody who's like the same height as me, I find it very difficult to find a target inside, I'm not able to kind of shorten my punches up like I'm able to do against someone taller. Like even if you watch my sparring clips that I've uploaded, you'll notice when I'm sparring someone taller, I do a lot better. I'm actually able to handle myself a lot better. You know, one thing you say about Tony is, oh, he was tough, no doubt about it. He had a great chin, and yeah, he took way too many punches. You know, his style doesn't last long. That's why he was punch drunk. You know, it's a pro fight, it's not the amateur. So I think Jirov got a hard deal with the judges. I agree. I thought Jirov won that fight. Again, I can see an argument for it being close because Tony did land the better shots, but in my opinion, Tony was nowhere near busy enough. I agreed with what Harold Lederman was saying when he's like, yeah, Tony might be landing big eye catching shots, but he's getting outworked on the ropes for most of these rounds. So you can't have him winning, you know? That was how I saw it. The next retrospective boxing. I'm hoping to do what do you call it? I'm hoping to do Emanuel Augustus as my next actual individual fighter breakdown retrospective, and I'm also working on my top 10 heavyweight list and my top 10 favorite fights list. So those will probably be the next three like edited videos. So yeah, hoping to get them done. I probably disagree with you on a lot of things. At least you can back up. Well, exactly, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing. All I ask is that people keep it respectful. You know, like when someone posts a comment on my video and says "y'all" is just hating, or posts calls me a white boy mayonnaise. Like I don't know. So someone called me a mayonnaise recently. I don't know what that means, but yeah, when they call me a white boy and say I'm hating, and post a laughing face emoji, what that tells me, that doesn't offend me, that doesn't upset me. All that does is it tells me that what I'm saying is true, and you don't have an argument against it. Whereas if you actually, provide some sort of refutation or some sort of argument against what I'm saying in the video, maybe, maybe I'll think about it, and maybe I'll be like, you know what? You know what? You're actually right about that. I missed something there. I'll correct it in future. You never know. I might realize what I said was mistaken if you can provide some sort of refutation, or if you were able to make a video response and provide some footage to the contrary of what I'm saying. I would be totally open to discussion, but unfortunately, most people in this community don't do that. Hatman supposedly sparred Danny Williams, but I'm not surprised if he said that. I'm not surprised. Yeah, how's it going, Dave? God bless you, man. If you make these videos exposing the careers of hype jobs like Davis, Ward, Mayweather, Alvaroid, Prince Nassim, Chavez Jr., the toxic fan base will shut down your channel. Oh, they'll try. Listen, more powerful people than that have tried to shut down this channel. Okay, I'll go into detail about that. I've had government agents try to shut down this channel. I know too much about the internet. Yeah, I'll go into detail on that one day. Oh yeah, Charlie Zelenoff, the OG badass of the YouTube warrior. Charlie Zelenoff is like an extreme example of what I was talking about earlier. How everybody on the internet is a badass and a great fighter with an amazing record. He's like the extreme example of that. As well as that other guy that you remember, that Rafael Torre guy. He's in jail now. Or that other guy that died not too long ago. That guy, Paddy Monaghan. He was. Do you guys remember him from the old? I spoke to his son. I used to talk to him on the old Facebook boxing forums. He didn't like me because I was disrespectful towards Muhammad Ali. Well, he calls it disrespectful. I just pointed out that Muhammad Ali was a racist, and you know, apparently it was disrespectful to point that out when I was like 16 years old. But yeah, I digress. What was I saying? Yeah, his dad used to go around all the old boxing forums claiming he was an undefeated bare knuckle fighter and a world. He said he was British, Commonwealth, European world champion, and nothing he said made any sense. Like, claimed he fought all over the world as a bare knuckle champion, and so many people believed it just because he was friends with Muhammad Ali, and it turned out to be a whole lot of nonsense. Like, obviously, yeah, the overhand right can be a great counter to the jab. That was something Povetkin was great at. Like, go and look at his first knockdown over Andrei Vorshik, where he slips the jab and throws the right hand over the top of it. Awesome. That was a great bunch. Yeah, good to see you, Rebel. God bless you. Here's Zelenov closing in on 1,000-0. Mate, that guy scares me. Like, he goes up to someone in the street and taps them and runs away and then claims it as one of his wins. He actually does that now. Sorry, just chewing my sandwich. Sorry. Pac's achievements at 126, 130 rival Muhammad Ali's best achievements throughout his entire career, but Ali is the GOAT. American fighters are criminally overrated. Exactly. Exactly. And I had somebody recently on the subject of American fighters. I ended up blocking somebody off the Sven Otke video because they were really annoying me. They kept saying, Sven Otke never fought outside of Germany, the usual spiel. And I said to him, I was like, well, how many times did these American fighters leave America? And the person was saying, oh, Las Vegas is the mecca of boxing. Germany isn't. And I'm like, well, first of all, that shouldn't matter. That's just giving Americans a pass for what you're accusing Europeans of doing, right? But that's not even true. I'm like, Sven Otke made more money in his career fighting in Germany than the vast majority of these big name Americans make in 20 years. So when you say that it's not the mecca of boxing, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, are you saying he didn't make money there? And he had to go to America to make money? Well, clearly not. He's clearly living proof that that's not true. But again, they'll give someone like Mayweather all this credit and never once bring up the fact that he never traveled for a fight. But if a European fighter doesn't travel for a fight, um, all of a sudden that's a black mark against their resume, and they can't be considered great over that. I'm like, it doesn't. It's just pure, like it's xenophobia, it's racism, it's like nationalism. It's just flat out bias and prejudice. That's what it is. Pacquiao's career is one of the most remarkable things we've ever witnessed. Defies all the odds. Oh yeah, Manny Pacquiao is a certified all-time great. And again, you know what the James Toney fans would say. They say, but Pacquiao was on steroid, even though he never failed a drug test. But they'll say he was on steroid. He is a cheater. But you point out that James Toney was on steroids. It was who actually did test positive for steroids. It's oh well, it doesn't really matter. You hear the wheels turning in their head, and they're trying to think of an excuse. Oh yeah, James Toney's style. He was like too relaxed in the ring. Took a beating. Yeah, do you know? I was going to talk about this. I was going to bring this up. John Fury, another person who claims to have beaten 100 people on the streets and won 20 grand from a fight, can't name any of his opponents or provide footage. Like again, Del Boy brought this up too. John Fury, he's like, I fought a guy in the street for 100 grand, and I was like this awesome bare knuckle boxer. I had all these fights. I was so hard. Nobody ever beat me. Again, it's the usual. I never lost a fight on the cobbles nonsense. He had all these bare knuckle fights. He was this badass. But you ask him to provide details. Where did this fight take place? Or like who was there to witness it? Surely somebody recorded it. Where's the footage? Where's the pictures? Where's the photographs? Where's the newspaper articles? Where's the first-hand accounts from people who were there who could verify this? And it's it was a long time ago. Nobody had any cameras back then. It was yeah, it is what it is. It doesn't really. I don't really remember the guy's name. The details don't matter, but it like totally happened, and I'm like totally hard, and I totally had that fight, and I totally made 100 grand for it, and I totally had all these other fights because I'm totally hard. I'm just an absolute badass. Just believe me. Don't ask any questions. Don't ask me to verify this. Just believe it. You know. Tony, many fights never KO'd, 3 world titles, fight of the year twice, I recall. Just lazy, not consistent. Freddie Roach speaks highly of. Well, I mean, Freddie Roach is Tony's personal friend and former coach, so I'm not surprised he speaks highly of him. I mean, I'm sure my grandmother would speak highly of me. Does that mean I'm the greatest of all time? um, who would Usyk fight next? I'm thinking Parker and Zhang. The Dubai rematch could be a hard fight when Usyk gets older because of the body shots. Yeah, body shots in quotations, and some lower contenders than retire. I would like to see Usyk retire. I honestly would, because I'm going to end up having nightmares over this. I hope to God some American fighter doesn't get lucky against Usyk and get a gift against him or stop him on a cut, and then Usyk's entire career will be about that fighter. His entire career will be about that. Kind of like how, when Costa Tszyu lost to Ricky Hatton at the end of his career, it's like his entire career became about Ricky Hatton, about how he was the guy Ricky Hatton beat. And they just forgot about all his accomplishments. That's what will happen. I guarantee you to Usyk if he keeps fighting for too long. Why is Froch in the Hall of Fame but Kessler isn't? Kessler was prime, was the better fighter. Even the biggest Froch fan would admit Kessler was a similar level. Mate, Kessler beat Froch. He beat him clearly. So, and he was already a two-time. No, yeah, he was a two-time world champion before he beat Froch, and then he became world champion again after. So, I don't see how Froch and Kessler are even comparable. Like legacy-wise, Kessler is way better. He had many more fights. He had more title defenses, better performances against the same level of opposition, and he beat Froch in the ring. So I don't see how. Again, it doesn't make sense. The only reason Froch is in there is because he's a British fighter who had a big mouth, and the Americans liked him. Oh yeah, yeah, that's Larry Holmes. He's just an alley rip-off. Yeah, that's what they say. American bias is just the thing. Tony is an incredibly talented fighter. I think perhaps some exaggerated his actual ability. Oh, you're telling me, mate? They not only exaggerated his actual ability, they hyped it to no end. He was nowhere near as good as people say. Again, he lost to Drake Thadze. Look up Drake Thadze and watch some of his fights, and you tell me how good that guy was. Go and look up Dave Tiberi or Reggie Johnson. You tell me how good those guys are, and then tell me would either of those guys, would Montel Griffin, would he be considered an all time great fighter? How about Samuel Peter or Freza Kendo or Hazim Rahman? Would they be considered all time great fighters? I mean, oh man. International Hall of Fame founded by a couple of Carmen Basilio fanboys to commemorate their idol. Why should I care what they think? Exactly, exactly. Whenever people write in my comment section, but he's in the Hall of Fame though, I get so tempted to just block them and not waste my time or energy conversing with these people because it's just so irrelevant. Like I could care less. Like I could care so little about the Hall of Fame, like the crap that I took this morning and flushed down the toilet is more valuable to me than the Hall of Fame in boxing. I'm not even kidding. It's so irrelevant. Again, Arturo Gatti is in there, Carl Froch is in there, Sylvester Stallone is in there. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah, Richie Woodall was a good fighter at a certain level, and Marcus Bayer did a number on him. Yeah, yeah, Bayer battered him. He did. Gerald McClellan was a massive puncher, very, very hard puncher. Could put you to sleep with one shot. Most of his fights were early knockouts. Very limited technically, though. Like he did have some skills, but he kind of ignored defense and just took the Wilder approach to fights. Just swinging like a madman. So he would have always been beatable, but very dangerous fighter. Very big guy for the weight, very powerful. Retrospective on careers got cut short would be interesting. Pirog, Valero, yeah. I actually did both of them already, but they're I think I'll do other fighters like that. I also did remember Ike Abuchi. I did his career. He was another one great career that got cut short. So yeah, it's good. Oh yeah, a Pacquiao retrospective. That'd be amazing. Do you know what? I'm gonna do that at some point. I really want to do that one justice though, because that'll be a very, very long career to talk about. And yeah, I'll really enjoy that one. And I'll enjoy watching Pacquiao's fights again. You know. Do you know I could do that? I could re-upload the video with alterations, but I just can't be bothered. I just honestly I can't be bothered. It's a lot of work, a lot of editing. And I've got better things to do in my life, if truth be told. Plus, I've got other videos I'm working on now for both channels. So, yeah, and I'm studying as well for this bloody course I'm on. Like, it's just so much going on. So I can't be bothered, redoing the same old videos. Yeah, thanks, man. No problem. South Africa had pretty good boxers in the 90s. They were never given enough credit. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, South Africa did have some good fighters. One guy that I talked to on here you're probably familiar with is that guy Ruben Grunwald. He was a guy who beat Carl Froch. He was a WBU champion at one point. He was from South Africa, but he fought a lot of his career in the UK and got robbed several times. So yeah, he was quite a good fighter. Him from South Africa. Also, that guy Chris Van Heerden. He in his prime he was all right. He kind of completely fell off though. But yeah, there's been a lot of South African fighters, that did quite well. That guy Tabaiza Machunu, the guy that fought Usyk, and he got robbed against what's his name? He got robbed against Makabu, and he beat Eddie Chambers. That guy, in my opinion, is criminally underrated. I think he is probably the best South African fighter in probably the past decade or so. Like it's just that he happened to fight at the cruiserweight division, which was one of the best divisions, of that era for me. So that's probably why he wasn't at world level. But I think that guy's one of the most skilled South African fighters I've seen in a long time. He was very, very good. The Woodall Bayer fight was weird. Bayer decked him 3 times in 3 then basically lost the rest of the fight. I don't think he lost the rest of the fight, but he was you're right about that next part. He was close to being stopped. I think Bayer ran out of gas in the last 3 rounds, and, yeah, he started to take a beating, but he was well ahead on the cards at that point, and yeah, he did score 3 knockdowns. So yeah, that was a that was a good fight. Go back and watch Tony versus Randy Couture. That'll prove Tony is an all-time great. Mate, that was sad to watch that fight. Like, and do you know, I don't think James Toney, I think he went into that fight genuinely believing that MMA guys couldn't fight and that they were just a bunch of wimps and he would knock them out with one punch. Because he went in there, he knew nothing about grappling, he knew nothing about takedown defense. He just got ragdolled. He got thrown to the floor and choked out. And I don't think he could believe it. I thought he was shocked. I really did. Like, crazy fight to watch that one. I remember that. Oh, who's phoning me? Not gonna believe it. That was my mum phoning me, but yeah, I'm not answering. I'm busy. All right, where was I? It's a bit late for her to be phoning anyway. It's nearly 7 o'clock. Um, Calzaghe is still underrated till this. Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, I think he's like I was saying earlier, definitely the best super middleweight of all time. I can't see an argument against that. You know, Calzaghe would have given Tony PTSD. It was that bad. And yes, Joe is best 68 fighter ever. Guys like Kessler, Eubank, Otke not far behind. Yeah, I think Otke's second to Calzaghe, and yeah, Kessler and that are up there. Yeah, yeah, Otke would beat Tony without a doubt, no doubt about it. You know. Try telling that to these Spurgs, though, in the comments. Kessler only beat Froch because of the yeah. Yeah, the volcanic ash flew in his eyes, and that's why he lost, you know? Yeah, DAZN Top Rank and Sky Sports are tramps, yeah. Sky Sports, they've made an enemy of me and all. They've taken copyright claims against me. They literally copyright claimed my, the video I made for the Fury, Usyk 2 fight, the decision. You could barely even see the screen. It was on the TV. You could barely see it in the top of the screen. Most of what you could see was flipping beer bottles on the table, and the video was like a minute long. And Sky actually took a copyright claim against that video. I'm not even kidding. Crazy. Most of the boxing fans in the USA say Sven Otke was a Eurobum. Yeah, and that's because they never watched him. They just same with Mikucheski. They never watched him. They just believed exactly what was said on the telecast. The American commentators. They believed everything they heard. They never watched him fight, which is interesting because he actually beat the 2 top American super middleweights of that era. Because when Roy Jones moved out of the division, I believe the two title holders at super middleweight were Charles Brewer and Byron Mitchell. Sven Otke beat both of them and took their titles, so he was better than any American super middleweight of that era. So it was a bit, a bit ironic for them to call him a Eurobum, wasn't it? It just doesn't make any sense, Something ain't right with Froch. One day he's hitting Matthew Barney 500 times and not budging him. The next he touches Lucien Boutte and he goes all PTSD every time Froch touches him, yeah. Well, you know my views on that, don't you? And yeah, I got not really much else to say about that. Froch is having a pretty crap time, by the way, behind the scenes. I'll give you guys that. I won't say too much. Sven Otke just wasn't willing to sell out to the Ameribum Society. It just sucks we didn't see the Calzaghe fight. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Sven Otke was ahead of the game. He knew the game. He knew exactly what would have happened to him if he fought in America. They would have robbed him against some bum, against some journeyman. And he knew for a fact it would have killed his career. It would have ruined his legacy. It would have destroyed it. So he made the wise decision to play his position. He knew he was a big draw in Germany. He made he made a lot of money there, and he was loved by his people. But like people say he was boring, but go and watch his fights back and listen to the crowd. the crowds in Germany absolutely loved that guy. He was a national hero there, and I'm so glad that he never sold out because he was offered a lot of money, from what I hear, to fight in America and basically give up his title, sell it because he would have gotten robbed. And he always said, "No, we're fighting in Germany," because that's where the fights make perfect sense. That's where they'll do more money at the box office at the gate. And that was exactly how he conducted his career. He never even went on holiday until he retired. He fought for like 6 or 7 years and fought every few months or something, then retired. Broke the record at super middleweight in just, I think he was champion for 5 years, and he had 21 title defenses. I mean, you don't that's unheard of in boxing. Like, especially at the level he fought at. He unified the titles. He cleaned out the entire top 10 in terms of like mandatories of his own sanctioning bodies. You know, what's there to criticize? I just don't see it. Roy Jones never did that. James Toney never did that. You know, oh well. USA isn't really the home of boxing. It's a misconception. People think it used to be, not anymore. Exactly. I mean, look at what's going on in Saudi Arabia right now, and you can tell the PBC like clowns are seething about that. They don't like a competitor. They always try to shut down competitors. Yeah, Loma should have stuck to Europe. Loma should have fought probably in Germany, kind of like Usyk did at one point early in his career. He should have maybe signed with K2. He could have had a lot more support that way. Signing with those like treacherous, backstabbing cuck weasels at top rank was not a good idea. Revisionism above among sports fandom is rampant. Seen really wild comments like the ones going about Maradona and Pele played against bricklayers. The worst ones are the NBA ones. Yeah, I don't know a lot about football or NBA, so yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. But you're probably right. Shout out to Hawker Mustang, by the way. Good to see you here, man. God bless you. Americans have always been privileged because 99% of their fights are at home. Exactly. They feel like they don't have to travel because they're American. They have this inbuilt like narcissism about them, this sense of entitlement that everyone else has to come to them and they don't have to go to anywhere else. So that's why you see so much hatred right now towards Naoya Inoue, because Naoya Inoue is the cash cow in the lower weight divisions and he doesn't have to leave Japan. Like why would he ever leave Japan for a fight? What reason does he have to do that? No reason whatsoever. He's the cash cow. So now they've got to go and see him. The likes of Stephen Fulton have got to travel, and their fanboys are seething about it. And that's why they were seething about Sven Ottke, because Sven Ottke was a bigger draw than any American fighter at super middleweight. So why should he travel to America, to some half-empty arena in Michigan or California or whatever, and then get robbed? Why should he do that? Why should he? That's true. Like, because a lot of shorter guys have to compensate for being short by learning how to fight inside and learning how to cover up. Taller guys have a tendency to lean back and move excessively. That's why I find them easier to spar. Being the taller fighter certainly has its advantages, but I've heard it's harder to punch down than it is to punch up. Yeah, that's true. That must depend on the fight. Yeah, that's why the best taller fighters plant their feet and they punch straight, even when they're fighting a shorter guy like Vladimir Klitschko. Precise was talking about this in one of his film study, how Vladimir Klitschko will sometimes get down to the level of his opponent so that he can land his jab straight and with the knuckle part of his glove without having to punch down. So they don't necessarily have to fight tall, even if they are tall. You can shorten your punches inside even if you're tall, and you can punch straight towards an opponent by just positioning yourself the right way to do it. But a lot of tall guys don't know how to do that. I know that what you scran. Oh, I've got pieces and chopped pork, which is Scottish for a chopped pork sandwich. Got another one there, I know. I've also got a 2 litre bottle of Iron Brew down there that I haven't opened. It's the weekend, so why not? You go into an argument with the right outlook, the pursuit of truth, rather than to win by any means necessary. Kudos. Exactly, exactly. That sums up. When I argue with someone about boxing, and I have an opposing opinion to theirs, I'm not there to do dick measuring and oh, look at how much I know compared to how much you know, or look at how better I am at debating than you. I just want to get to the truth. I just want to speak the truth. I want to present an argument and have that argument be addressed with respect. That's all I'm looking for. And I'm not pretending to be some sort of expert. Like, that's another thing. People will comment, like, I'll say James Toney is not an elite fighter, or James Toney's not an all-time great, and they'll say, well, the boxing experts say that he is an all-time great. And I'm like, well, define boxing expert. What are you talking about? And then they don't respond. And I'm like, you can't just say that. You can't just come on my channel and say, the boxing experts say differently to what you're saying, so you can't have that opinion. You can't just say that and then not come back and not clarify or explain your point. That doesn't make any sense. So when you say a boxing expert, like, somebody will say, like, oh, a former fighter, a fighter who was a world champion or whatever, and I'm like, okay, so what you're telling me is, you would consider someone like David Haye a boxing expert, right? David Haye, I mean, two-weight world champion, a unified champion, very, very high level fighter, a guy who has trained fighters, who has managed fighters, who has commentated and provided unofficial scoring for fights. He's a boxing expert, right? By any standard. Now, take David Haye's prediction record and compare it to mine. You tell me who's better at analyzing fights, who's better at breaking down fights. Now, I've got a lot of respect for Emanuel Stewart. I think Emanuel Stewart was a legend, greatest boxing trainer ever, probably. I'll have somebody say, oh, Emanuel Stewart said that Wilder was the biggest puncher in history, or they'll say Emanuel Stewart said that James Toney was an all-time great, so his opinion's better than yours. And I'm like, well, that may be, but did Emanuel Stewart sit and study James Toney's entire career? Did he go through his entire record with a fine-tooth comb, watch every single one of his significant fights start to finish, and did he analyze them and come up with an informed opinion on how good he was? Like, did he take the time to really think about it and study the guy like I did? I don't think he did. I don't think Emanuel Stewart ever sat down, watched stacks of James Toney fights, and studied his career in depth like I did. So why is his opinion any better than mine on the subject? Why is Freddie Roach's opinion on something that I've recently done a lot of fresh research on? Why is that more important than my opinion? What makes him an expert? Like, is Freddie Roach out here predicting fights and calling them expertly, like a lot of people on the internet do? A lot of people in the boxing community, people like Del Boy and Precise, and several others that, they break down fights. They analyze them. They go off what they see in the ring, and they're honest about their assessments of them. Freddie Roach isn't doing that, is he? He's a trainer. He's doing his job. And again, he's friends with someone like James Toney. That the two are very close friends. They work together. He was his coach for years. Obviously, he's going to say James Toney is an all-time great. He's talking about his friend. Like, and I'm like, and again, you're telling me I can't disagree with Freddie Roach because he's an expert. Now, be very, very cautious with that, because what you're saying is, you're saying you can't disagree with Freddie Roach. Whatever Freddie Roach says is gospel truth, and if you try to disagree with it, you're a casual. Are you sure you want to go down that road? Because I'm sure there's a lot of things Freddie Roach has said that these same people would be very, very uncomfortable with agreeing with. So if you're telling me you can't disagree with Freddie Roach, that's a slippery slope to go down, is all I'm saying. It's an appeal to authority, and I don't appreciate it. By the way, got a couple of contributions to the channel I've just noticed. $9.99 from Pac-Man. I appreciate your boxing knowledge, Nordic, and thank you for spreading the truth about boxing. When I was a kid, I used to believe Ali was the GOAT. However, now I wouldn't have Ali in my top 10. I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. No, thanks a lot. God bless you. It's much appreciated. And yeah, I agree with you. I used to think Ali was one of the greatest of all time, when I was a kid, and I didn't know much about boxing. But it's when you sit down and actually study these fights and look at them with a fresh perspective, and just do it objectively without any bias, and you realize a lot of these narratives are false. And you do that by being open minded and having a genuine thirst for knowledge and being willing to consume and propagate information. So yeah, I appreciate the contribution, brother. God bless you. And we got a £4 contribution from Daz Pierce. Again, I appreciate that, man. God bless you. Have 2 bottles of Iron Brew, fella. Yeah, I certainly will. I certainly will. I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot, man. God bless you. So yeah, I appreciate that. Where was I? So yeah, thanks to those guys for the contributions. Um, I've watched John Fury versus Akin one day. Seriously, he wasn't up to much. Has been responsible for the psychological abuse of his son. Do you know what? I had a conversation with my mate. Do you know the day that Usyk fought Fury in the second fight? It was either that day or the day before. We watched a documentary about the fight going into it. And they interviewed John Fury, and somebody asked him in the interview about Fury's mental health issues. And he said something about, "I'm sick and tired of talking about this, that, and the other." And he sort of turned away from it. And he looked really, really like John Fury. I don't know if you saw the documentary, but John Fury looked really, really angry at someone bringing that up. And I got the vibe I got from it was that this guy was an abusive father. That's the vibe I got from it. And look, I know a thing or two about now let me not get into that, but just the vibe I got from it was that this guy was an abusive father. And what I was thinking as well was John Fury never really took much of an interest in Tyson's career until he became champion and started making a lot of money. Then all of a sudden he started getting involved and he's like, he came out my balls, he's my son and all that. It's like, because remember, it was his uncle Peter who guided Fury. It was his uncle Peter who basically raised him and got him in shape, taught him to box. That was all his uncle Peter. You know, he was the guy who did all that. And his dad you never really saw his dad until he became a big name. So yeah, that was something to think about there, isn't it? Sven Otke made bank. All Inoue does now outside, as does Inoue now, outside of guys like Canelo, AJ, Usyk. Inoue is probably the biggest earner. Yeah, he is. Absolutely. Absolutely. Inoue is one of these guys who, like, to me, I think because he did fight in America a couple of times, I think, but now I think he's realized that it's really not worth his time and effort. Because like when he fights in Japan, he's got a crowd that loves him. He's got a crowd that's loyal to him, that supports him like to the death, and he just looks fantastic. He does like it's like I'm so glad. Like I'm so glad that guy has his own like home fan base, and he doesn't have to rely on America because he's helping to make Japan a superpower in boxing, and competition is healthy, you know. To be fair, they downgrade Chris Bird, who was a good fighter. They do it to degrade the Klitschko era. Yeah, Chris Bird wasn't a bad fighter. I mean, he wasn't that entertaining, but he was a technically skilled guy, and he was very awkward, you know. Remember, Bird beat Holyfield easily. Yeah, he did. He schooled him. He also beat David Tua. He schooled David Tua as well. A lot of people say that David Tua was a great heavyweight, but he got schooled by Chris Bird, so he can't have been that bad. And Vladimir, a young Vladimir who was quite inexperienced, completely destroyed him. So that wasn't a bad win, in my opinion. Zoo versus Hatton is unwatchable. It's just Hatton fouling on the old man all night. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that fight. Hatton threw so many low blows. He used his forearms and clinched all night. Horrible, messy fight. I mean, it was a great victory, don't get me wrong, but it was a very messy fight, you know? Multiple guys I know hate Usyk for what he did to Joshua. Now they're dying for someone to beat him. They're fascinating him losing to Dubois. Well, I can tell you right now, the boxing establishment, particularly in Britain and America, are desperate for one of their guys to beat Usyk. They are desperate because they want to make Usyk's career all about that one guy, essentially, you know. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he retires. I really do. I hope he does what Sven Otke does and rides off into the sunset and retires undefeated with his world title. Imagine retiring undefeated as champion. It must be a great feeling, you know. Kessler was definitely a level above Froch. Yeah, I mean, he beat him convincingly, while he was past his prime. Hall of Fame is a limited space museum that pays for overhead costs by ticket sales. It's a popularity contest. Yeah, exactly. It's nothing to do with greatness or how good you were as a fighter. It's all about popularity and whether or not the media preferred you to other guys. That Fraser Kendo thing was cringe. Literally one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. Yeah, oh yeah, Fraser Kendo, mate. That Fraser Kendo James Toney fight. It was kind of sad to watch because James Toney was like so out of shape in that fight that it looked as if he was just a shadow of his former self, and he just sat on the ropes all night, getting pummeled with a jab, getting hit with the overhand right, just getting beaten up all night. It was kind of sad. And it was a dominant win for Fraser Kendo. But then the judges gave it to James Toney. I mean, that was honestly an embarrassment. Like some robberies, you can say, well, you got a young guy here, marketable, they want to protect his career. James Toney was done at that point, and they still robbed Fraser Kendo against him. Absolutely shocking. Yeah, how's it going, Thomas? God bless you, man. Hall of Fame are bad because of the arbitrary nature of it. Takes our credibility to judge who is great away from us. Exactly. Exactly. It's like you can't watch a fight and decide whether or not the guy you're watching is great. Because if that guy's not in the Hall of Fame, then he can't be great. Likewise, if you got a guy who's an absolute cream puff and can't fight to save his life, but if he's in the Hall of Fame, you can't criticize him because he's in the Hall of Fame because we say so. Shocking, man. Pac-Man, my favorite fighter. Oh yeah, he's one of mine too. Oh yeah, good evening, Apology, man. Good to see you here, brother. Every time, man. God bless. Machunu is decent. Yeah, yeah, Machunu's very good. Like, I honestly think that guy is underrated. Like, watch his fight with Usyk. That's a fascinating fight to watch from a stylistic point of view. Also, watch his fight with Eddie Chambers. He completely schooled Eddie Chambers. Nobody was expecting that. South African fighter Sugar Boy Malinga was an absolute legend. Took Eubank to an SD, arguably beat Ben twice, and got the decision once and beat Robin Reed handily. Top notch. Yeah, Malinga was very good. He was, and again, that was the guy. I know he was past his prime, but that's the guy who Richie Woodall beat for his title. So that's impressive, if you ask me. So yeah, I thought that was a good win, and Malinga was an underrated fighter. Darius was better than Sven. I agree. He was a much better athlete than Otke. Like I think Otke was defensively better, slightly better skills, but um, I think that Darius was so much stronger, so much like physically more durable, hit way harder, had better punching technique, and was just a more dynamic and more like versatile fighter, if you ask me. So I do think that if they'd have fought, and they were in talks to fight in 2008 when they were talking to make a comeback or they were in talks to make a comeback. I think Darius Mikuchevsky probably would have won if they'd have made their comeback. Although I'm not 100% about that because Mikuchevsky did take quite a bit of punishment because he had a lot more fights and had a lot more like wars than Otke did. But I do think he probably still would have had enough to win. Plus, he would have had a size advantage too because Otke was kind of a small super middleweight, whereas Mikuchevsky was a big light heavyweight. So he probably would have won. A bit off topic, but anyone here wants to give up smoking, vaping, nicotine patches work wonders. Yeah, I don't smoke aside from the occasional cigar. So, yeah, it's not an issue for me. It's not an addiction. I don't need it. But I'm sure some people do. Boot was overrated. Yeah, I think Butte was overrated. I don't think he was a bad fighter. I don't think he was a bad fighter, but I do think he was a bit overrated. But I think he was a decent fighter. He had wins against guys like Edison Miranda, Saki Obika. So he was like borderline world level, I'd say. Froch and the property scandal. That's part of it. That's part of it. That's a small part of it. Put it that way. Ward has a Hall of Fame record, Kessler Kovalev, and the great knocking out in front of 80,000 Froch. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if Froch is in the Hall of Fame, then Ward's got to be in there and all, hasn't he? He's got to be. I miss the German scene. It was stacked for about 20 years. Yeah, I miss it too. Like, I miss watching Marco Huck fights. His fights were just incredible. Same with like Arthur Abraham. I used to love watching those German fights, man. Loma should have learned his lesson after the second fight. Yeah, he should have. You know, where he fought Salido. He should have, you know, because that should have let him know that Top Rank didn't have his best interests at heart, you know, because they were just going to set him up against their fighters. You know, it's like when people just say, "Do you box?" Yeah, yeah. That's such a loaded question, isn't it? Or better still, like instead of saying, "Do you box?" what they'll say is, "How many fights have you won?" Or "How many world titles have you won?" Now you know full well I've never won a world title. So why would you ask that question? Like the only reason you would ask that question is if you're trying to get a reaction. You know, you're trying to make some sort of stupid strawman argument. Like it's a loaded question, and I don't even answer it. I just like if I see somebody saying something like that, I'll usually just say something sarcastic or block them because it shouldn't matter how many fights I've had or whether or not I box. What should matter is what I'm saying and do you have an argument against it? That's what should matter, you know? Yeah, thanks for the contributions again. I saw them in the starred comment section earlier. I'm quite behind on comments. Um, your knowledge of logical fallacies is superb, by the way. Always love it when people point logical fallacies out. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, see that's something you hear a lot of in the boxing community. People use all sorts of fallacies, all sorts of strawman arguments, and all sorts of non-arguments. If truth be told, you know, like y'all is just a hater and y'all have never boxed. That doesn't prove anything. Or your channel name is Nordic Warrior. That's why you support Mikhail Kessler or some. Like I'll see that all the time. I'll say I commented on a video recently, and it was people saying that Thomas Adamek versus Eddie Chambers was a robbery, which it wasn't, by the way. And I commented saying I had Adamek winning the fight clearly. And some smart ass was like, "Oh, your name is Nordic Warrior. Obviously, you had Adamek winning." And I'm just like, it's literally a video game reference. You clown, you donut. Like, I'm not even Nordic. I'm Celtic. I'm Scottish. So and whatever, you know. But you know what I'm trying to say. It's just a non-argument that these people use. You know. Mate, I had an abusive father myself, and we'll write about it one day. In fact, it was the best time Tyson had was when John banged up. Yeah, yeah. Do you know? I don't doubt when John Fury was banged up, Tyson was probably a lot happier. And again, look, yeah, I see what you're saying. I do. Look, the certain things that parents do which mess up their kids and mess them up for life, and the way that Tyson Fury behaves and the issues that he has, you know, the kind of episodes that he has, you know, how he just kind of spurgs out and has all these mood swings and stuff like that. Very common with children who have undergone abuse. Put it that way. Put it that way. It doesn't surprise me at all. And when you see the way that John Fury behaves, how he picks on people smaller than him, and the way he talks down to people, and how everything is about him. You know, if Tyson Fury does something in a fight, like if he does well, the first thing John Fury will say is, "Ah, look, he came out my balls. I raised him. We're fighting men. He's one of my clan." Like he takes credit for everything, and you can just tell that Fury's upbringing with that guy as it must have been an absolute nightmare having that guy as his dad. It must have been, and you can tell why Fury was a lot closer to his uncle Peter growing up. You could tell why Uncle Peter was basically his father figure. He was the guy who raised him. He was the guy who looked after him, taught him how to box, got him in shape, kept him on the straight and narrow. Like when Fury was with Peter, he wasn't having all these emotional outbursts, and he wasn't, you know, always talking about bloody tanning his wrists and crashing his car and all that stuff. It always seems to be when John Fury's involved. And look at the way John Fury acted in the aftermath of the second fight. Now, John Fury, after his son lost, he's saying he disowns him and he hates him and this that and he's no son of mine. And whereas before, when he wins, he's talking about he came out my balls. I take credit for this. So when he wins, when he loses, he's not his son. He's dead to him. but when he wins, he's his son. Like how abusive is that? Like how much of an absolute like subhuman reprobate have you got to be? Like a complete degenerate scumbag to talk that way about your own kid, your own son. Like man, it's shocking, horrible, horrible. And I think it's kind of a shame that Fury isn't like he isn't on good terms with his uncle, like his uncle Peter. Like I don't think they speak anymore, and I think that's really sad because Peter was clearly more of a father figure to Fury than his own dad was. You know, he clearly was. But yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Tyson Fury's whole image feels very fake. He used to enter the ring with the Irish tricolour on his shorts. Then years later, after his comeback, he wears the cross of St. George on his shorts. Yeah, I remember that. He used to say, I'm not English, I'm not British, I'm an Irish traveller. That was what he used to say early in his career. And then all of a sudden, at some point, like you say, he's wearing the England flag and he's saying he's English and he does it for England. And I'm like, he seems to me like he has an identity crisis, and that's quite common, I think, with a lot of travelers. Is they don't really know who they are. Essentially, they don't know who their allegiances lie with. You know, I've had that problem too. Look, you guys know my background, okay? I was born in Scotland. Right, I'm Scottish. Like as far as my bloodline is concerned, I'm entirely Scottish. Although you wouldn't think that if you hear my name, but it's like, as far as my bloodline is concerned, I'm Scottish, right? I grew up in England, um, raised by essentially my mother and a man who wasn't my biological father, right? So I had a strange identity crisis of my own. Like when I was living in England, I was considered Scottish, right? But when I was living in Scotland, because I moved about as a kid, I was considered English. So it's like wherever I lived, I was kind of an outsider. It's that kind of thing. You know, some people have that issue, like, and it gives them kind of an identity crisis. They don't know who they are, especially if you've got an accent that's difficult to determine. Like if you listen to the way that I speak, you wouldn't be able to tell where I'm from or where I grew up. You wouldn't be able to tell. And that's common with people who move around, you know, when they're young. And it's kind of the same with Fury. If you listen, like supposedly he's from Manchester, right? But if you listen to him talk, you wouldn't think he was from Manchester. You would have absolutely no clue where he was from. And I think that's something that again it can cause kind of and again he probably didn't see a lot of his dad growing up and things like that. Like it can cause kind of an identity crisis for young kids, you know, and they grow up with serious problems, you know. I hate how truthful you are and have no filter and just come right out and say it. Quote from my ex-woman: "We live in a society where people see honesty as a threat. She proved a lot to me that day." Oh yeah, absolutely. But you're absolutely right. Honesty is and sincerity, you know, just being honest about your views and opinions on things is a serious problem to the mainstream because you know they essentially want a society filled with NPCs. They want a society filled with sheep who you know, are willing to work 36 hours a day and not challenge authority and, you know, not say anything that's deemed offensive or problematic and just fall in line, consume product, get excited for next product. That's what they want, you know? That's what they want. Do you see Usyk selling out like Kovalev? I wouldn't be surprised. You know, something tells me he won't. Like, I thought he would before. Like, going into the second AJ fight, I was terrified he was just gonna take a dive or he was just gonna take something off his punches and not try to win. But there's something about Usyk. There's something godly about Usyk. You know when some fighters say out like Tyson Fury after a fight, he'll say, "I want to thank Jesus Christ. I want to thank God." When he says that, there's a certain thing that pops up in my mind that tells me that he's not being genuine, that he doesn't genuinely believe it. But with Usyk, when he says, "I want to give thanks to Jesus Christ," it seems sincere to me. Like when he's on the stool after a hard round and he looks up at the sky and he has a little word with God and he does the sign of the cross. Look in this man's eyes. This man is a genuine believer. Like he is a genuine spiritual person. He believes very, very deeply. And in the Lord Jesus Christ. Like, he's a genuine believer. And like, I can sense, just his spiritual aura, as cringy as that sounds. And there's something about Usyk. I think he can't be broken. I just think the establishment can't break him. I think they tried to break him, and I think they failed. I honestly do. Like, I don't think he was supposed to win those fights. I really don't. As like corny as that sounds, I genuinely don't think he was. Because it's like, who's done what he's done in boxing? And look, the boxing establishment are now seething, saying he's not as good as Muhammad Ali. He doesn't have as many fights. I mean, if he could go and knock out 57 bums to add to his resume, would that make him on the level of Muhammad Ali or better? I would take 22 victories or however many he has against mostly world champions than 57 wins against bums and maybe 5 wins against world champions. Who are you picking, Beterbiev, Bivol rematch? I'm going with Beterbiev again. This may just be me being stubborn because I picked Beterbiev confidently in the first fight, but I'm not one who changes my prediction very easily, as you guys know. But I just think if Beterbiev does what he did well in the first fight, but is a little bit more consistent with his body attack and doesn't wait for Bivol to tire out and things like that, if he gets to work right away and makes it round 13 of the first fight rather than a whole new fight entirely, I think Beterbiev stops him. I think he breaks him down, walks him down and stops him. Genuinely do. So yeah, thoroughly looking forward to it though. Thoroughly looking forward to it. Yeah, Pacquiao probably is the greatest of all time. Wouldn't argue with it. What do you think of Luis Ortiz? He gave Wilder a lot of problems even at 60 years old or whatever age he really was. I don't know what to make of Ortiz. No way he's only 45 in 2025. I don't know how old he was, but I think Luis Ortiz is a decent boxer. Southpaw, good jab, good straight left hand. Quite elusive, but not that quick. He had decent explosive power, but his feet were a little bit slow, a little bit predictable. A little bit defensively unaware. Didn't have great fundamentals. I think he's a bit overrated. He was a decent fighter in his prime, but once his athleticism started to slow down, like a lot of these Cuban fighters, he just started getting picked apart by more fundamentally sound fighters. So yeah, don't really rate him that highly, if truth be told. Like, I'd say like a B-level fighter, probably. What's your favourite fighter from the Germany scene? Mine is probably Sturm, Hook, or Lebedev. Probably Hook for me. I think he was the most entertaining. I know most people thought Lebedev beat him, but I think Hook was very, very entertaining to watch. Great fighter. Great warrior. I swear Adamek is, or is Adamek even from the Nordic countries? I swear he's Polish. Yeah, he's Polish. So again, that comment doesn't make any sense. You think Adamek won because your name is Nordic Warrior. I guess they're saying it's just because he's white. I thought he won. But again, that doesn't make any sense. What does the name Nordic Warrior have to do with a Polish fighter? That doesn't make sense. But yeah, again, watch that fight. Adamek won that fight clearly. But because you had that simp, Chris Mannix, and that other simp, BJ Flores, they were a couple of just absolute weirdos. They were commenting on that fight, claiming that Eddie Chambers was winning when he barely landed a punch and clearly got outlanded and outworked the whole fight. And they were saying it was a robbery, and they influenced the audience that it was when it clearly wasn't. That was my point I was making. But people started spurging out over it and saying that I was insinuating that I wasn't being genuine or whatever. You know the deal. Detecting a pattern here. Had abusive parents too. Had treacherous friends and been betrayed by everyone that I loved, including mother. Monitor demons are real. Yeah, look, mate, I can relate. Look, I don't. I'm open and honest on this channel, and I'm open and honest with my audience, as I've said. But there is a lot of things that happened I won't talk about. But just because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that kind of channel. With I don't want to be one of these like victim-minded individuals. Like, oh, woe is me. I had a hard life. Pity me. That kind of behavior just sickens me, if truth be told. And I refuse to insult the intelligence of my audience by bringing all that stuff up. And I don't do it at all. But yeah, I can relate. I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're dealing with. Trust me when I say that. Also, when Parker was around Fury, was less zesty. Makes you wonder. Yeah, yeah. When Peter was around, yeah, because Peter was probably a lot more manly and a lot more stoic than John, who's just like a big, just a big thugged, degenerate who probably put his son down and made him feel like crap. That's the vibe I get from it. I mean, you just, again, like I said before, look at the way John Fury behaves, the way he acts around his son, the way he talks about him behind his back. It doesn't surprise me at all that Tyson Fury has suicidal tendencies and that he has problems with substance abuse and things. It doesn't surprise me at all. And I only hope that that doesn't spill over to his children and that he's a better father than he had himself. I really hope that. Things I've learned over the years, I used to think Otke Reed was a robbery. Reed was a dirty fighter, and that knockdown was a tangle of legs. Exactly, it wasn't a knockdown. Either he stepped on his feet or his leg was behind his leg, and he tripped, and no punch landed. So that wasn't a knockdown. So when Duke McKenzie's sitting there spurging out and screaming at the referee like it was a knockdown, he had a knockdown. Well, he was wrong because it clearly wasn't a knockdown, and the referee had a clear view. Not only that, but another lie that the commentators told about that fight is they said that they said that Robin Reed got warned for throwing a punch to the chin. That wasn't true. It was a slap. Robin Reed threw a punch with the palm of his glove, and the referee caught it and said, no, don't punch with the palm of your glove because it's a foul. But then Duke McKenzie claimed that he was warned for throwing a punch, and that was why that became the narrative about that fight. So again, that's another clear example of the commentators creating false history, creating a false narrative. The referee did a great job that night. Apology, I was always zesty. I kissed Chisora after I buck broke him and slapped Vlad's ass in a fight and stared at him naked in the sauna. Yeah, and Fury even said he had a romantic night with Chisora, and he wanted his mate Isaac Lowe to give him hand jobs. Now, do you know if one of my friends said something like that to me or about me, especially they said it to someone else while I wasn't there, I don't think I could be friends with that person. I don't think I could hang around with them. I'd be like, why did you tell somebody that you want me to give you a hand job? That's you don't say that about your friend. It's just so creepy, man. That's so strange. Fury family has a lot of secrets. The mum was always hidden behind the scenes, and some of the cousins could well be half brothers. Everything is up in the air with that family. Yeah. Yeah, well, if you listen to the way Paris talks, she kind of sounds like Tyson, doesn't she? That's kind of. Yeah, I'm saying nothing. Fury failed to prove his Irish ancestry, and apparently he's a fake traveler. So are you saying the Fury family aren't really travelers? Is that like, was that just something they made up? That wouldn't surprise me either. I don't think it's true though, because I do actually know some travelers, and I have heard that the Furies are travelers. But again, who knows? They could have been deceived as well. Who knows? The Fury family tree could well be a conifer rather than a mighty oak. I wouldn't be shocked. John Fury abuse behavior may have influenced Tyson. I think so. I genuinely think so. I think John. Look, I can't imagine growing up with someone like John Fury and not having psychological problems. Like that guy strikes me. He's a bully. We know he's a bully. Like that situation with Usyk's team, those Ukrainians. He specifically targeted the smallest, weakest looking guy in that group. Walked right up to him and headbutted him, and still came off worse. Still ended up damaging himself. So that guy's a bully. He's a thug. So having him as a dad, it must have been difficult. Not gonna lie, it must have been. John Fury wasn't an abusive father. Went way beyond strict. Oh, he was an abusive father. Went way beyond strict, and it messed the poor lad Tyson up. It seems like that to me. It seems like that to me. You know, I can't imagine it that they had a normal relationship. You know. Yo, how's it going, the real? God bless you, man. Good to see you here. Eddie Chambers. So yeah, Eddie Chambers was a very, very boring fighter to watch. Like he had some skills, but he was very, very overly negative in the ring. Did way too much showboating and not enough punching. And always complained every time he lost. He would complain that he was robbed, even when he clearly lost. Did the same thing against Povetkin as he did against Adamek. Both Adamek and Povetkin beat him clearly, and he complained afterwards, you know. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself after what we're watching his interviews, I'm like, maybe if you did less showboating and more punching, maybe you might have won. But no, stans and fanboys been a problem in boxing. Can't take criticism. Exactly. It's not even just criticism. They can't take the truth. You know, you speak the truth about any fighter, what they will actually like. You know, you actually watch and break down their careers or their fights. And it's crazy. They're like, oh no, you're supposed to just make highlights and talk about their amazing defense and say how perfect they were and how no one could beat them. Then I would have subscribed. But no, you actually said something that was true, so I can't condone that. You know, that's literally what it's like, you know? Esteban de Jesus, no idea. No idea. Ref warning about palm strikes reminds me of Thomas the Hitman Holmes mostly landing palms with his cross. Yeah, some referees just completely ignore it. Some referees do. They just don't bother. But a good referee, usually European referees, will do it. You know, they'll be like, "Hey, listen, don't do that." And if you're fighting an A side, if you're the B side against the A side, you won't get away with it in most cases. You know, you won't. If one of my ostensibly straight friends came out with crap like that, they would no longer be my friend. Kind of creepy and sinister. Mate, I would be like, what is wrong with you? Like, are you on crack or something? But we can't eat at the dinner table together. I can't come to your house and sit on the couch next to you if you're going to say things like that. You know? Like, I get having banter with a friend, and sometimes it can be like sexual banter. But you talk about like shagging women. You talk about big tits and things like that. You make funny comments like you don't talk about jacking each other off, and you don't do it behind their back. You're giving an interview and you're talking to someone who's got a camera and you say, "Oh, my mate Isaac Lowe, I want him to tug me off," and you don't say things like that, even if it's a joke. You don't say things like that. You know, crazy man. Yeah, that was definitely post first retirement. He was based before that. Yeah, would Fury have said something like that back in 2014, 2015? I don't think he would have. I honestly don't think he would have, for sure. Peter seems like a better person, although I believe his win over Klitschko is completely overrated. It wasn't even a display of good boxing. Fury literally hugged him the whole night. Terrible fight. Yeah, it was a terrible fight. The thing that separated him from Klitschko was one, obviously his youth, his foot speed, because at that stage of Vladimir's career, his feet had slowed down significantly. Like he was still pretty quick on his feet, but nowhere near as quick as that version of Fury. And also Fury's height and reach. He just stayed away from him, moved laterally, pecked and prodded with the lead hand, and occasionally scored a shot. And again, clinched, hit behind the head. It was a very dirty fight from Fury, and Klitschko just wasn't busy enough to secure the victory. So very close fight, competitive fight, but Fury got the win officially. And again, I agree it was overrated, but it was good in the sense that he beat an all-time great heavyweight. It's just that it was overrated in the manner of the victory, and the guy was past his prime, you know. So yeah, I'm just gonna go to the toilet. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Just had to empty my bladder. I can't believe it's taken me this long to finish this sandwich. I must not have the appetite I used to. Where was I? Um, Here we are. Everyone's entitled to an opinion on boxing or non-boxing related. Exactly. And if you're gonna disagree with somebody, at least provide an argument. That's always been my that's always been my way of looking at it. You know, provide an argument, be honest, and don't and have and argue with someone in good faith. Don't use strawman arguments. You know. Oh, it's both. The Tony video and the Larry Holmes video. Top Rank actually claimed both of them over like a few seconds of footage, just because I was exposing a couple of false narratives. And yeah, they took offense to that. You know, in your humble opinion, who do you think's the greatest boxer of all time, skill wise? Well, I think the greatest boxer of all time, skill wise, is probably Manny Pacquiao. But Pacquiao has amazing skill, but he also has like elite level athleticism. Like there might be fighters who have more skill than Pacquiao, but don't have the kind of same athletic ability that he has. Um, for example, a guy like Lomachenko might be defensively better than Pacquiao. He might have better like sort of situational awareness in the ring. But Lomachenko doesn't have anywhere near the kind of freak athletic ability that Pacquiao had. Nowhere near as fast or as powerful, for example. You know. So Pacquiao is greater based on that, you know. But I do think I do think that I do think that Loma might have more technical skill. He's probably one of the most skilled I've ever seen. So just in terms of skill, it might be Loma, you know. In some ways, I actually miss those autistic hardcore fanboys arguments different groups had. The Saudi post-COVID boxing killed most of the hardcores. It's pure casual Moses Atalma time now. Yeah, yeah. I miss some of the old live streams. It was quite funny. Although at least I still go live, and you know Del Boy goes live, and Thunderdome. He's been doing a lot of lives lately. He's been going live like nearly every day lately. He's doing a great job, and I always try to check his out when I can. So there are still lives in some panels, but it's not the same. You know, like when Mark used to go live, his were really funny. You know, we always used to get some good banter on them. You know, maybe check out S. Carmen from Umaya Fight Camp. He's got great takes on boxing, MMA, and speaks his mind against Teddy Atlas and Joe Rogan. Maybe I'll check him out then. Maybe I will. Can't be any worse than a lot of the bloody um, channels you have nowadays, isn't it? Moses Atalma, the next hype job to be exposed. Well, I wouldn't call him a hype job yet because he hasn't reached that level. He's just a prospect. That's all Moses Atalma is a prospect. He's not done anything yet worth talking about. He looks the goods so far, but we'll wait and see how he looks when he fights a credible opponent, someone who's a decent fringe contender or something. Then we'll see how good he is. Until then, I don't really have anything to say about him. I've not seen anything from him so far that tells me he's a top prospect or that he's going to go on to be champion. But with the right guidance and the right, there's something behind me then, and the right promotion and stuff like that, he might become champion. We'll just have to wait and see. So Nordic got Bob Arum and Stan Dubois after him. No, yeah, I've got Dubois' like psycho dad with all his fake accounts. He's after me. And now I've got Bob Arum and all his cronies after me too. I'm starting to panic now because I'm hearing something behind me. It's bloody one of top rank sent a hitman after me or something and they've climbed through my window. So I turn the camera on. You guys can warn me. You can warn me if somebody sneaks up behind me. I was hearing a weird noise. Don't know if there was someone on the balcony or whatever. I don't know. Dubon Punch resistance increased. I wonder why. Yeah, I guess it's just hard work and dedication, and a lot of all natural supplements. Don't forget that. Plenty of whey protein and you know, I don't know, creatine, whatever they take. Nothing illegal, of course. Nothing that's on the ban list. The guy fighting Islam Makhachev today is the most base fighter in the UFC. Which one's that? Because there's quite a few base guys in UFC. I've noticed. There's a few guys out there that say some spicy things, which is good. Top Rank getting destroyed by Saudis. Yeah, Top Rank's probably on their way out. That's why they need to sponge off me. I mean, people will tell me I'm irrelevant. I'm a small channel. I'm nobody. But hey, look, I've got Top Rank trying to sponge off me. So clearly they're desperate for money, aren't they? Clearly, if they're going to go that far. So yeah, let them try. I placed a small bet on him to win. He's a believer in Jesus, who got a one-day title shot against the top Muslim. It seems like destiny. Well, let's hope he wins it then, and then proclaims Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior after he does. That's scaring me, man. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's a weird noise behind me. I don't know where it's coming from. Scaring me. Maybe I'm going schizo or something. I don't know. Maybe it's like a fly or something. I don't know. Nah. Renato Moisano. Is that the guy's name? I never heard of him. I'll need to look him up. Bello gave Dubon something, or Dan the fake Christian Charles. Yeah, Don the fake Christian Charles. Don Charles is another thug, another guy who thinks he's odd. But I doubt he is. I doubt it very much. Yeah. Stan scared Daniel into fighting hard. He's like, listen, boy, you better become a good fighter overnight. You better take all these roids and you better stop losing because I'm sick of defending you with all my fake accounts on the internet, When I'm finished chewing, I promise. The UFC has just become just as corrupt as boxing. I can't be the only one noticing all the fake fights. I barely watch UFC. I barely watch them. So yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm assuming there probably is. It wouldn't surprise me at all. The Muzzies, when they win, it's all Islam. When they lose, Islam had nothing to do with it. Yeah, I've noticed that. And you notice Christians don't do that. When Tyson Fury won the heavyweight title, there wasn't all these videos all over the internet saying, this proves that Jesus Christ is Lord. This proves that Christian teachings is true. No, because we already know that. We already know. We've already won. We already know that Jesus is our Lord and Savior and that he died for our sins. But with Islam, it's anytime anything happens, a Muslim does anything, they claim it's because of Islam, and it's the proof that Islam is true, like they did with Khabib, for example, and Amir Khan. But of course, when Amir Khan got his jaw shattered numerous times, I guess Allah willed it or something. Like I don't know. It's ridiculous. These guys are just they have a false religion that is based on lies. It's a corruption of our gospel. That's what it is, Let's not get into that, shall we, though? I mean, it's like, I seen a video not too long ago, and there was this guy, I think the guy was a white supremacist or something, and like nobody knew who he was. He was like some amateur scientist, and this guy made a book of he called it top 100 most influential people of all time. And nobody knew about this book. It wasn't like a bestseller or anything. Like this guy wasn't well respected in the scientific community. Again, it was just some random white supremacist guy years ago, and I think his dad like self-published the book or something. And he had Muhammad as the number one most influential person in history, right? So what happened was all these Dawagandists, all these Muslim propagandists, they started they started showing like this book from this white supremacist guy. They were like showing the book at their rallies, their like propaganda rallies, and when they're talking to their audience, they're like, this man here, this well-respected scientist, well-respected member of the scientific community, claims that Muhammad is the number one most influential man of all time. This is the proof that Islam is true. That's literally the lengths that these clowns will go to promote their fake religion. Like they'll literally prop up a guy like that. It's it's funny, man. It is, and they just own themselves as always. But again, when Usyk and Fury are dominating the heavyweight division, we're not out here saying that this is because God willed it. This proves that our religion is the truth. No, we already know that. We don't need celebrities to prove it. When Jordan Peterson comes out and says that Jesus is the most influential man ever, well-respected scientific community guy, right? We're not out here bragging about it because we don't need to. Top rank haters will say Nordic Nordic ruined them. Yeah, they probably will. Yeah. Oh, there's still time. Maybe I will ruin them. Who knows? Yeah, these top rank cronies will diss small channels but acknowledge them at the same time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're here watching my videos, my content, and commenting on it. I've never been on their channel, but I'm the one who's irrelevant, apparently. They're the ones getting mad. Even with the Peds, the bum will quit again. Yeah, probably. Real tough guys don't go around broadcasting it. Exactly. Real tough guys don't need to go around going, "Look at me, look how hard I am." Real tough guys just go about their life and do what they do and take care of themselves and their family. And if they need to throw hands, they'll do it. But it's not something they go out their way to try and do. Yeah, the Debum fan account, which was probably his dad on that fake account. I heard rumors of it. Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, and about Eubank Jr. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the weight. If Eubank Jr. is healthy at the weight, he should probably win. But you never know. Ben might be back on the eggs, and he might have him drained at the weight. Who knows? I'm saying this right now. Beterbiev will stop Bivol in the rematch. I can't wait. I can't see what Bivol can do different. Oh, right now I agree. I'm favouring Beterbiev by stoppage if he picks up the momentum from what he did late in the first fight. Like if it's round 13 of the first fight, Beterbiev walks him down and stops him. In my opinion, that's how I see it. If there's a fair win, Parker will do Dubois either points or late stoppage. Do you know? I can't see it. Like Parker's more than capable of beating Dubois, but I don't think he will. I just don't trust him. I don't trust Parker at all. He's a very untrustworthy fighter. And he doesn't have any finishing instinct. He has the same problem that Kubrat Pulev has, the same problem that Dmitry Bivol has. When he gets an opponent hurt, all he has to do is shorten his punches, take a step back and find the target. But he either smothers his own work and swings himself off balance, or he just lets the guy off the hook. Either way, he doesn't get the stoppage. So I think Dubois is going to win that fight. I just think Parker won't do... Parker's capable of winning it, but I think he won't do what he needs to do to win, if that makes sense. Beterbiev is the only Muslim I like. The rest of them should go back to their countries instead of ruining ours, yeah. Well, at least Beterbiev isn't in my country, The Canadians can have him, Do you think a fit prime Roberto Duran would have beaten Leonard in their rematch? Personally, no. I know Duran won the first fight and won it convincingly, but I think the mind games kind of got to Leonard a little bit. I think Leonard adjusted in the rematch, and I think he would have always won on that particular night. So yeah, I think Leonard would have won the rematch against Duran, regardless of how he was in the fight. Bivol apparently converted to Islam, which is a real shame. That bitch really did a number on him. His wife, she messed him up so bad he converted to Islam. What a shame, man! What a shame. Maybe he converted to Islam so he could beat her. Because you're allowed to beat your wives in Islam. Which is kind of based. I kind of like it for that. I'm kidding. Muzzies say that to get your soldiers out of our country and stop invading based on IL politicians' commands. Yeah. I know. They're right about that. Listen, listen. I don't wish them any harm. I don't think our soldiers should be in their country either. I don't think we should be involved in foreign wars at all. But you know why? Yeah. They tried ripping off the Bible for sure. Yeah, they love their faith so much, but they don't live in Muslim countries. That tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? Hot take, Muhammad Ali's defense was terrible. That's not a hot take here. I agree with that 100%. Credit where it's due. He can take punishment, but it just felt like Ali improved his defense. He wouldn't have had the health problems. Yeah, Muhammad Ali was brain damaged by his mid-30s. If he had great defense and didn't get hit like people say he didn't, then that wouldn't have been the case, would it? James Toney, same situation. He wouldn't have been punch drunk by the age of 30 if he had great defense like people claim, but he really didn't, as far as I'm concerned. If a Beterbiev who's recovering from a knee injury gave Bivol his toughest fight, I really don't want to know what a fit Beterbiev will do to him. He better behave. Yeah. Again, right now I'm favouring Beterbiev. I saw enough in the first fight to know he was technically the better fighter and the bigger puncher. But I do have concerns about Beterbiev's knee. Will it give him problems again? But I don't know, man. I think Beterbiev can win it. I think he knows how to win it. Us white Europeans built their infrastructure, even trained their doctors. Hey, listen, us white Europeans built everything. Everything worth seeing in the world, we built it. You know, shout out white people, the greatest race in the world. Daniel, there's an argument he would have got Parkinson's regardless because he had a family history of it. Yeah, yeah. Well, he might have got it eventually, but he wouldn't have had it in his 30s. He'd have had it way later probably. Islam's overrated. Khabib, for example, his environment and training, also Sambo, made him great. Eating clean and sleeping, which is a fact. Yeah, Khabib lived the life. He trained every day, like eat, slept, and drank training. MMA was his life. He would train and live clean. Didn't abuse his body, looked after his body. That was why he was so good. His commitment, and he had elite level genetics. So nothing to do with Islam. It's to do with the way he lived his life and his genetics. I'm praying Usyk doesn't rematch Debum. I'd like to see him versus Bakoli. That's a more interesting fight and a better fight, if you ask me. I think Usyk wins it, but it'll be an entertaining fight while it lasts. How highly do you rate Mike Tyson, Nordic? I personally believe he is the greatest heavyweight of all time in his prime. His footwork, defense, offense, and ability to close the distance was phenomenal. I have Tyson top 10, possibly top 5. I think he is one of the greatest heavyweights in his prime. I don't think he was the greatest, and I do think he was overrated because some people think he was number one. Me personally, I think there are other guys at heavyweight in a head-to-head matchup that would beat him prime for prime, but I do still think he was brilliant. He was very explosive, very fast. As you say, he had good footwork, great head movement. He was good at shortening his punches inside and finding the target. Was a very good fighter, but he was also flawed and he was also beatable. He wasn't great at making adjustments. Was a bit of a front runner. I think there are like the Klitschko's guys who are that big, that athletic, and that skilled would have been an absolute nightmare for him. I don't think he would have ever beaten Lewis, Lennox Lewis, that is. So yeah, I think there are a few guys who are better than him, but he's definitely up there, like definitely top 5, top 10, without a doubt. My dad knew Henry Cooper. His hands were like shovels. Wouldn't want to take those shots. Oh, did he now? That's quite cool. Henry Cooper seemed like a cool guy to me. He seemed like pretty chill, you know. How highly do you rate Michael Nunn? Who would you have as the best 147 pounder? Um, I have Manny Pacquiao as the best 147 pounder. Michael Nunn was a very good middleweight. Great lateral movement, great jab, very good straight left, good defense, good head movement, timing. Knew how to smother his opponents inside, which was important for a tall guy. And he was a great, like, well-rounded fighter, a good all-rounder. I really rated him, very good. And that's one of James Toney's best victories by far. No doubt about it. Even though he came from behind, it was a spectacular knockout against a very good fighter. We really are the greatest thing that ever existed in this world. We are proof of God's existence. Exactly. Exactly. Just take one look at us, innit? We're made in God's image. Yeah, Sugar Ray Leonard is up there. He is a great fighter, for sure. Leonard is definitely an all-time great, in my opinion. But I do think Pacquiao was slightly greater, you know. He achieved a lot more anyway. Yeah, I rate none. I do. Even though I don't really agree, I'll strongly disagree with your takes on Ali. I admit his defense is overrated. Yeah, I think anybody can agree with that his defense is overrated because, again, he wouldn't have ended up with brain damage if his defense was so great. Again, that's the excuse people lose for why, or the excuse they use for why he lost to the likes of Larry Holmes was that, oh, he had brain damage. Well, how did he get brain damage? You know, he had brain damage for taking punches. That's how he got brain damage. Lennox as the top 10. I've got Lennox in the top 5 as well. I don't have him as my number 1 though. But again, I'll do that list eventually. Yep, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, absolutely. The King of Kings. Well, I'll give you this. I think the greatest heavyweight champion is Vladimir Klitschko. And to be honest, I don't think there's anybody even close. Like accomplishment and resume and just boxing ability in general, athletic ability, skills. I think Vladimir is the greatest heavyweight of all time. I do. I think Usyk versus Ajit would also be a good fight. Anyone but Dubois. I'd rather have a Fury trilogy. Yeah, I'd rather see him fight Fury again than fight Dubois again. I mean, Fury's way more proven than Dubois. Done more to earn it, in my opinion, you know? Yeah, Usyk's one of the best heavyweights too. I have him top 3. I think Joe Frazier or at Cruiser would have given Usyk the fight of his life, possibly beating him. The only way you could really defeat him was exercising that vengeful spirit. Yeah, I don't think Joe Frazier would have been able to beat Usyk. He's just too small, too limited. I think Usyk could just pick him off from long range with a jab. Personally. Oh yeah. Sugar Ray Leonard knocks out Crawford. No, that he smashes him. That's a terrible style for Crawford. You know. I've been doing research on him as well. Donald Curry recently, Henry Maske. I like his style a lot. Yeah, Henry Maske was good too. Quite a bit underrated. Good fighter. I'll be doing one for both of them for sure. Yeah, Ali's behavior towards Fraser was disgusting, and he just bullied him, treated him like crap. Absolutely horrible behavior, no doubt about it. And the fact people just forgot about that and acted like it was acceptable the way he treated him, and that he was just trying to build the fight. Nah, I don't buy that. That was horrible behavior, really spiteful, nasty behavior. You know. I think Joe Louis, the most overrated heavyweight. Precise already made videos. His biggest fight wins being fixed. Yeah, I've been saying for years Joe Louis had fixed fights. I've been saying that for years. That was Joe Louis invented the concept of cherry picking. You know, he was the one who came up with the Bum of the Month Club. You know, stay active, fight an easy opponent off the couch every month. That was a Joe Louis thing. You know, Joe Louis is literally one of the original cherry pickers in boxing. Sorry about that. Just turning my charger off. And you know what? All this talking has made me thirsty, so I might have an iron brew. I might pour myself an iron brew. Because why not? There we go. I can't believe I just went nearly 2.5 hours without opening my iron brew bottle. You know, I mean, I did have a cup of tea, to be fair, but, well, here's my iron brew. All right, one sec. All right, there we are. Here we are. Cheers. All right, where was I? Let me get back to where I was. Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah, good to see you here, man. God bless you, bro. Usyk would destroy Fraser. Stiff footwork, only go one direction. Usyk's leftovers would destroy Fraser. Again, I don't see how Fraser could get by Usyk's jab and land his shots because again, Fraser would just come forward, bob and weave, throw the left hook. Usyk would just take a backward step, avoid the left hook, and just counter with the jab. He could just jab him all night easily, you know. Walk him onto the left hand after setting him up with a jab. The video of Larry Holmes was great. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Cheers, bro. Crawford even gets outboxed by most of his opponents. Yeah. Well, I mean, if Jose Benavidez or Amir Khan can outbox him, what do you think someone like Sugar Ray Leonard in his prime would have done? I mean, seriously. I actually don't mind Usyk Beterbiev. Again, they definitely need a couple of matches. Yeah, I would like to see that fight. That's a good legacy fight for both guys. Been saying it for a while now. It'll be a great, you know, kind of retirement fight for both of them for their legacy. Yeah, yeah. Beterbiev's honest about it. He clearly doesn't think he can beat Usyk again. Doesn't think he can beat him if they fight at heavyweight. Which is, to be fair, I mean, at least he's honest, eh? What's the point in lying? What's the point in saying, I'll kick Usyk's ass, I'd knock him out, and then when it comes time to negotiate the fight, just saying, oh, no, I'm not interested. You know, that's like Carl Froch saying when he said he's too big and strong for Golovkin, and then when Golovkin's like, all right, well, let's fight then. And he's like, oh, no, I'm retiring. No, thanks. You know, it's kind of like that. Beterbiev isn't like that. Beterbiev's honest about his level and his ability. So yeah, that's a good thing, in my opinion. I believe Pacquiao is the GOAT of boxing. I think anybody with real boxing knowledge knows this. I actually believe Pacquiao can come back and beat Barrios. Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Like Barrios is one of these guys. He's like a sort of a stiff upright fighter, quite a wide, long target. And I think Pacquiao, even at like 46 or however old he is, still has the speed and the power to trouble him and maybe even beat him. And I agree, Pacquiao is the greatest of all time, in my opinion. I've thought that for years, you know. Your content's been excellent so far this year, brother. Really, really good stuff. Amen. No, thanks, man. No, thanks. I really appreciate that. God bless you, brother. God bless you. Crawford is just not a boxer in my eyes in terms of skill. He's like a predator. He's not there to box. He's there to kill. Yeah, Crawford's more of a seek and destroy, you know, a come forward pressure fighter more so than a boxer. Like he can box a bit, but you can tell it's not his natural style. It's not how he prefers to go about things, you know. And it would get him in trouble against a guy like a prime Sugar Ray Leonard for sure. You know, it really would. Can't wait for Lewis Crocker versus Paddy Donovan. It's a proper trade fight. I've zero interest in the fight between the two Nepo kids, Eubank Jr. and Ben. Yeah, Eubank Jr. and Ben right now, I've got no interest in it. It's just not, it doesn't get me going at all, doesn't get me excited. I'm just not interested in it. I'm really not. Too little, too late, as far as I'm concerned. The Lewis Crocker Paddy Donovan fight should be a war. You know, it's a fight where it's two guys probably know their level, and it's going to be a back and forth war. You know, a proper old school domestic fight. You know. Good Triple B is back. Funny dude. Yeah, shout out to Triple B. Shout out to Triple B. Triple B is back with a bang, and he's bigger and badder than ever. Joe Lewis was the first cherry picker. I thought Rocky Marciano was the no chance. No. Well, I mean, look, Rocky Marciano cleaned out the heavyweight division and beat all the top 10 ranked contenders that were there. Never avoided anyone. Joe Lewis had 25 defenses and fought like every month, and most of them were against guys straight off the couch. You know, yeah, that's crazy. Pacquiao Prime smashes Anthony Joshua. I don't care about weight difference. I don't know about that. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, you know, he'd just have to grab a hold of him, wouldn't he? And it'd be over. But I mean, if anybody can overcome a size advantage like that, it's Pacquiao, isn't it? Do you know? Look, Canelo versus Crawford, I was gonna make a video about it. I think Crawford's gonna win that fight. I do. I think it's a setup. I think Alvarez, the boxing establishment have kind of had enough of him, and I think Crawford's going to outbox him, probably win on points. And so yeah, right now I'm strongly favouring Crawford in that fight. I think the time is right. Crawford can't sell tickets on his own. He can't have these like you know low level fights, and he can't fight guys on his level. He has to fight somebody who's like a big box office draw and a pound for pound level guy, a big name, a legend. He needs to fight somebody like that, and he needs a significant win on his record to generate some sort of buzz, some sort of interest, because clearly he's not going to get it fighting guys like Madrimov, in difficult and dangerous fights. So I think the establishment are giving him Canelo. I think that's what they're doing. Who do you think has the better chin, Triple G or Canelo? Triple G, without a doubt. I've seen Triple G get hit with some horrendous punches and not even be flinch, not even flinch from them. Triple G has one of the best chins I've ever seen, and he's never been down amateur or pro. Will you be doing more career reviews? Yep, I will be. Yeah, I've got quite a few of them in concept. Going to be doing an Emanuel Augustus video once I can find more footage and do a bit more research, because that's one that has been requested quite a bit, so I'm going to be doing that. Nordic, I don't think people realize how great Pacquiao's win over Thurman was. For me, Thurman was the better fighter of himself. Crawford and Spence at that time. Yeah, Pacquiao beat Thurman. No, I agree. I said so at the time. That was an amazing victory. Like Pacquiao was what, 40 years old at that point? But no, he's even older. He was like 41, wasn't he? 42. Or was he? I can't remember. He might have been 41 actually. But at that stage of his career, because remember, several years before then, Thurman was a new up and comer. People were saying he was going to beat Pacquiao. He was going to beat everyone. And then years later, when he's like at his prime, and Pacquiao's like years past his prime, it's crazy, man. Like, that was a shocking victory. It really was. That's how great Pacquiao was, seriously, Crawford. You think Crawford will win against Alvarez? Yeah, I do. I mean, I can see that chance, but Crawford's gonna get natural into that weight class. I think people are gonna be surprised. I think that fight's a setup. I think Crawford's gonna. I think he's gonna win it. I think he's gonna win it convincingly, and I think all of a sudden Canelo's going to look very small in that ring. He's going to look very ordinary, and people are going to be like, "Hang on a second, what's going on here?" Like, I'll make a video about it. I'll make a video about it where I'll think about it and I'll articulate my thoughts a little bit more. I honestly think Crawford's going to win that fight. I honestly do. Benavidez, you mean against Morel? That's a tough fight to call. I do favour Benavidez, but I don't trust him, man. Like he hasn't looked good his last couple of fights. He's looked defensively unaware. Seems to be kind of stuck between two weight divisions. I don't know, man. That's a hard one to call. It is. I think you should do a long career review of the four kings in one video. Do you know what? In one video, review the whole four kings and that whole story behind them. That's not a bad shout. That could be a good sort of documentary style video I could do. I'd be open to the idea. I'd have to think about it, but yeah, that's not a bad idea. I might do it. What was the community post about then? Did they take the vids down but let you? No, they claimed the videos. Like somebody at Top Ranked manually claimed both of my videos. So essentially, the videos are basically like suppressed in the algorithm, and all the revenue is going to Top Rank. So essentially, Top Rank is sponging off the videos. I talked about it earlier in the stream. If you wanna go back and watch it, but yes, essentially it's just some little sim loser at Top Rank decided to take copyright claims over my last two videos. Conveniently, both of them at the same time, even though both of them were clearly examined by YouTube and considered, Yeah, yeah, they were considered clear for monetization and all that. Again, it's a bit of a kick in the balls just because it'll suppress the videos in the algorithm, but it's not that big a deal. You know, I know I kind of spurred out about it in my community post, but kind of over it now. It's not as big as a deal as I thought it was. Um, Pac-Man was my favorite fighter to watch as a lefty. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pacquiao was great to watch, man. Never in a boring fight his entire career. Wouldn't shock me if Crawford won in some strange way. Yeah, I think he'll win it convincingly on points. I think that's what will happen. I think it'll be kind of like a Bernard Hopkins, Kelly Pavlik situation. Kind of a setup like that. That's what I think it will be in terms of how it will go. And people will be shocked by it, but I personally won't be. Honestly, does it put more pressure on Nello or more on Bud if that fight happens? I would say more on Bud, because Nello's like made all his money already. He's close to retirement. Crawford still doesn't have that like big, like top level legacy win, and he's not like a big box office draw. So I think there's more pressure on him, and I think he'll win it. I genuinely think he'll win it. Yeah, yeah. Morel is basic, no doubt about it. And all else being equal, I think Benavidez should win, but I just don't trust Benavidez. I haven't liked the way he's looked in recent fights. You know, he comes forward and puts everything into all his punches. If you don't fall over, there's no plan B. Yeah, yeah, that's what it seems like to me. But Benavidez' defense seems kind of leaky to me. I have questions about his punch resistance at that weight. Just not convinced by him. Who do you think was the best of the four kings? I'd say it was Leonard. I agree, Leonard. Leonard was definitely the most technically skilled of the lot of them, and probably the best athlete too. I genuinely think so. The greatest 135er, yeah, probably Duran. Probably Duran. Duran at lightweight, that was his best weight by far. I would say Pacquiao, but he only fought there once. So we don't really have a lot to go on. But I think Duran was more established at lightweight. So I'd say he was the best lightweight ever, probably. Shout out to Sven Otke. God bless you, brother. Every time, man. Butterbean would have beaten Dubon. Yeah, you know what? He would have had a puncher's chance. If he'd have landed one of his big left hooks or his big overhand right, he could have made Dubois quit, or he could have knocked him out. Wouldn't surprise me one bit, you know. Expose a video on Top Rank incoming. Oh, an expose video on Top Rank. That was scummy what they did, yeah. I think they were just seething because I was criticising their product, essentially. I was criticising two fighters in particular who they promoted and they constantly bloviate about and hype up, and some little simp working for them got triggered over it and decided to claim the videos. But listen, they'll get their comeuppance one day. Like I said earlier, Top Rank have made an enemy of me now, so they'll get their comeuppance one day. I get anything on them, I'll be exposing them. Wildest comeback fighters against Curtis Harper. I give Harper a chance if it's real. Look, Harper does have power, for like just some like garbage journeyman. He can punch, but he won't do anything in that fight. He'll lay down for Deontay Wilder like a good boy. Probably quit in the first round. That's probably what will happen. He'll lay down. Curtis Harper is just a bought and paid for journeyman. That's what I think will happen there. I actually agreed 100% with the Holmes video. Great boxer. Toney, one of my favorite boxers, but I'm grown up enough to understand he massively overachieved. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Look, it's important to be objective with such things, I think, and not get too emotionally caught up in the hype and things like that. That's a mature way to look at it. Absolutely, and I agree there. I agree there 100%. Yeah, you have to. Even if what I'm saying is, even if you're a fan of a fighter, you can't let that cause you to be overly emotional and not stand for reason. You can't let it make you unreasonable. That's what I'm trying to say. Whitaker and Mosley were excellent at lightweight. Yeah, they were. Yeah, Yeah, very good. Mosley was better in my opinion than Whitaker. Whitaker was more technically gifted. He had better defense, but Mosley was a way better athlete, way stronger, bigger puncher, and yeah, they were both very good for sure. No doubt about it. Yeah, Whitaker was a good boxer, no doubt. Yep, Holm got the best variety of jabs. Sonny Liston, best power jabs. Ricardo Lopez as well. Yeah, Ricardo Lopez is an all-time great. Liston did have a great jab. He was a limited fighter, but had a great jab. Larry Holmes is an all-time great and one of the greatest jabs ever. No doubt about it. Tiafimo wants nothing to do with any real fight. You were completely vindicated. Exactly. I mean, look, Tiafimo, that guy's in my opinion, he's an industry plant. He's a complete fraud. And I don't rate him one bit. I never did. Never did, if truth be told, you know. I don't, do you know, yeah, I think Dubois will win. I don't think Parker will do what he needs to do to get the win. Parker doesn't seem to know how to shorten his punches and find the target and finish his opponent. He seems to always let them off the hook or smother his own work. I think he'll lose either on points or a late stoppage. Again, against a very dirty and very slick Dubois, you know, I think that's what will happen. Yep, home was great, Daniel. I loved it when he jumped on top of the car and smacked Burbick. Great character. Who has better legit wins, Tarver or Toney? I would say Tarver. Tarver was a better fighter than Toney. I know Toney apparently beat Tarver in the amateurs, did he not? But that's the amateurs, so that doesn't count. I think Tarver. Well, it doesn't count to the pros. I think Tarver developed into a much better pro. I mean, Roy beat Tarver in the amateurs too, but Tarver ended up destroying him. You know, beating him 3 times. I know he lost the first fight, but he got robbed. You know, he won the next 2 easily. You know, so yeah, I think he would have handily beaten Toney. Just outboxed him from long range and won on points. You know. I watched your James Toney video, and I agree. Toney was actually better when he first moved up to heavyweight than when he was at the lighterweights. I agree. That those 2 fights, you know, the Holyfield fight and the John Ruiz fight, to me, those were his 2 best performances. Like without a shadow of a doubt, from a technical and strategic point of view, those were his 2 best performances, in my personal opinion. Calzaghe would have done Canelo dirty, a 12-0 beating. Calzaghe would have done the same thing he did to Jeff Lacey to Canelo, if not worse. You know, would have been a complete mismatch. I think Roy would have beaten Tarver in their rematch. Tarver closed his eyes before throwing that right hook, and prior to that, he was getting schooled. Maybe he was just finding the time to throw. Well, they did have a rematch, and Tarver won. Like they fought 3 times. The first fight, Tarver got completely robbed. He won that fight clearly. The second fight, Tarver knocked Roy out cold in the second round. The third fight, Tarver absolutely dominated Roy and won on points, won easily. So Tarver was definitely the better fighter of the 2, in my opinion, you know, and definitely better than Toney, you know, no doubt about that. I think Antonio Tarver was a bit underrated. I might do a career review for him, you know. Don Charles thinks he's the best coach of all time, though. His ego is out of control. Do you know, it was only a few years ago people were saying Don Charles was the worst coach in the UK. Now, all of a sudden, because Dubois has won a few fights, somewhat controversially, Don Charles is all of a sudden a great trainer. Like he had anything to do with it. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Pryor versus Alexis Arguello was a great fight. Pryor's coach is saying magic juice is making me look sideways. Yeah, that guy was a degenerate. Was it Panama Lewis? He's like, get me that drink, the one that I mix. You know, it just clearly gave him some sort of stimulant. You know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I agreed, Sven. Don Charles has become too big-headed. Pish, black dude gimmick, out of control. Yeah, he thinks he's hard too. You know, it's like he wishes he was the one fighting. Acts like a tough guy, but he's all mouth. You know, so that's what he is. He's all mouth. He's a complete clown. Yeah, Tarver very good, very underrated at his prime. I rate Tarver. I rate Tarver very highly. I think he was very underrated. Even in his 40s, he was a genuinely dangerous cruiserweight at that weight, and he could have competed at heavyweight. I think he was very underrated. I do. And Sven Oki beat him in the amateurs. funnily enough. Yeah, his hard man act is yeah, on about Don Charles. He's good at teaching fighters how to cheat, yeah, because he's from the streets, because he's hard, so he teaches them how to cheat, you know? That's about it. Joe Joyce was managed terribly. Why put him in with Zhang when he was not contender? Unfortunately, Joe is shot from the Zhang fights. Yeah, in the Chisora fight, Joe Joyce looked brain damaged to me. I actually genuinely think he's brain damaged. I do. I don't think he'll ever be the same, you know? So yeah, he's done, in my opinion. I can't see him winning a significant fight again. I'm a dip out. Yeah, good to see you here, man. God bless you. Have a good night. I'm in LA. My house catching fire again. Got to pull out. Have to get a blue roof next time. Yeah. See you later, man. It was good to see you here. Thanks for stopping by. God bless you. Oh, where was I? Don is still bitter that David Hay smashed his jaw. Yeah, David Hay like humiliated him and Chisora. He took on the pair of them at the same time, you know. I lost all respect for Dubois and Charles after their behaviour after the Usyk fight. Mate, Daniel Dubois gate crashing Usyk's interview like that. If I was Usyk, I'd have gone right up to him and I said to him, "Listen, you are never ever gonna get that rematch. I will never give you a rematch." That's what I would have said to him. I would have just humiliated him there and then and he won't be able to sleep at night because he'll never get that rematch. I'd have just told him, "I'm gonna retire undefeated, and we only ever had one fight, and I made you quit like a bitch." I know Usyk wouldn't say something like that, but it could have at least said to him, "You're not getting the rematch," you know. Don Charles saying Usyk's faith was an act was disgusting. Did Don Charles say that? Did he actually say Usyk's faith was an act? Because if he mate Don Charles, somebody needs to lay that guy out. That guy needs to be laid out like in public. He needs to be made an example of. I'm not even joking. That guy's a scumbag. Just an absolute degenerate thug. Wouldn't mind doing it myself, like if he gave me a reason, you know. Dubois is just so autistic. Down syndrome strength. Yeah, he seems it, doesn't he? He's got that country bumpkin strength, hasn't he? That Artard strength, you know. Tarver actually stopped Jones when they boxed at 13 years old. He stopped boxing for years, came back in the early. Oh, did he now? I didn't know Tarver stopped Jones. See, I thought Jones beat Tarver in the amateurs, and didn't Tarver beat him once? I didn't know he stopped him. That's interesting. I need to look that up. Don said it on Talksport, if I remember right. Did he now? That guy is a complete scumbag. He should be deported. I'm not even joking. Don Charles should be deported. What an absolute like sick in the head individual he is, honestly. After Dubois beats Parker, the rematch is going to happen, and it's going to proper fill Usyk in. He's going to proper fill Usyk in. That's a funny saying, that fill him in. I think Usyk will punish Dubois for that potential. I hope he doesn't. Look, if he really wants to punish him, just don't fight him. If you will, like I said, if he really wants to punish him, just say you're never getting the rematch. I made you quit, and you will never get a chance to avenge it because of your disrespect. That's what I would say if I was him. Joshua could have beaten Dubois if he didn't have boxer-sized Ben giving him instructions. Well, that couldn't have helped. Having boxer-sized Ben in the corner could not have helped him. He could have literally had anyone else. He could have had my grandmother in the ring, giving him instructions. It would have been a better. It would have been what was I going to say? A better idea, you know. Who are some random heavyweights do you think give Usyk problems? Not the top ATGs. Some guys stylistically, I personally think Bo. Yeah, Bo is one of the guys for sure would give him problems because Bo was quite awkward on the inside. He was quite handy for a big man at getting inside and shortening his punches. I think Sultan Ibragimov, and the reason I say that is because he would be able to emulate kind of what Tobias Machunu did to Usyk. You know, he was kind of a shorter southpaw that can duck low, get under your punches, and throw backhands to the body. You know, that was something that Machunu actually was able to win a couple of rounds against Usyk by doing. I think Ibragimov was even better than Machunu, and he could do something similar. But I think Usyk would figure him out and win. It would just be a difficult fight while it lasted. Um, Lennox Lewis would give him a lot of problems without a doubt. Size and power, you know the deal. And the Klitschko's would obviously give him a lot of problems. I suppose someone like George Foreman, you'd have to give him a puncher's chance. I think he'd destroy Foreman, but again, Foreman had that one punch power. He could get lucky. Joyce a few years ago when he was in his prime might have had the size and durability, stamina, and strength to give him problems. That could have been an issue for him. But for the most part, Usyk could probably figure them all out and beat them. He would just struggle, with some of them. Oh yeah, Dubois' ego is way, way out of control. It's embarrassing if truth be told. Yeah, yeah, he doesn't deserve it. If I was Usyk, I would never fight Dubois again. Never fight him again. Never give him the rematch. Yeah, Povetkin had the technical skills to make it a competitive fight, and he would probably land like some big, like counter punch out of nowhere and maybe turn the fight around. But Usyk would have to survive a scare to win. That would be a very competitive fight, prime for prime. I genuinely think it would be. Dubois recently found women. That's where his man strength come from, allegedly. Yeah, women and all natural supplements, whey protein and creatine. Or whatever he takes. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Zhang would have a puncher's chance for sure against Dubois. It would only take one left hand and he would knock him out, or one big right hook. Yeah, yeah. 80s Tyson wouldn't be an easy fight. I would still favour Usyk, but I don't think it would be an easy fight. Yeah, Zhang and Bakoli would knock Dubois out inside 6 rounds. Yeah, as long as it was fairly officiated. But would it be? Yeah, I do see Usyk figuring out Tyson and either beating him by a wide decision or stopping him late. I do see that. I watched the Dubois Joyce fight again. It was actually a good performance from Joyce. Yeah, Joyce dominated him from behind the jab, just completely schooled him, broke him down, made him quit. Very one-sided fight. Wasn't even remotely competitive, and that was probably Joyce's. Aside from the Parker fight, that was probably Joyce's best performance. I think he showed better defense than ever before in that fight too. Or what do you think of rumored AJ Bakoli? Do you know? I think Bakoli could stop AJ now. I think he can. He's got experience of sparring him. He's got good momentum right now. AJ looked terrible in his last fight. I think Bakoli could stop him. I really do. So I would favour Bakoli in that fight by stoppage. At least right now, I would. Not AJ a couple of years ago, but if they fought right now, I'd favour Bakoli. It's mad that James Toney was on steroids against Ruiz. When you look at the state of him in that fight, yeah. Well, he had a lot of body fat, but he also had a lot of like back muscle, and his arms were quite muscular. You could tell he'd been doing a lot of strength training and bulking up for the fight. So he was definitely on steroids for the fight. And we know he was because he failed a test. He probably was for the Holyfield fight too. Yeah, yeah, Zhang was made in a lab, and Bakoli grew up eating bushmeat in the Congo. Yeah, two big, bloody, seriously dangerous men, without a doubt. I hope Parker stops Dubois just to binge watch Don Charles post-fight cope. Yeah, 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 that would be hilarious. I'll listen. I'll enjoy listening to that if it happens. And Don Charles trying to act hard and threaten anybody who criticizes Dubois. Yeah, that'll be it. Joyce was completely finished after the Zhang fight. Took a horrendous beating in that fight. Got his chin cracked. Well, it looks that way, doesn't it? Like he's never looked the same since that fight. He's looked absolutely atrocious ever since. So it does seem like it, doesn't it? It does seem like he's never going to be the same, and he just looks brain damaged to me. I don't think he's looked right since those fights. He's slurring his speech. It looks very slow. It's a shame. He's just not the same fighter anymore. Not as talented anymore. Bakram versus Crawford. Do you know what? I favour Bakram. I'd favour him. I would. I think he'd beat Crawford. I don't think that fight will ever happen though. I don't think they'll dare fight that guy. Not unless he was weight drained or something. Yeah, James Toney versus Lucas Brown was a freak show, and Lucas Brown just carried him. Like, he could have knocked him out if he wanted to. Like, James Toney was so shot at that stage of his career, and I think Lucas Brown just carried him for 12 rounds. I think he could have stopped him literally in any round he wanted to. He just carried him, I think. Yeah, yeah, Zhang's power is incredible. Just one of these guys, so naturally heavy-handed and so explosive as well. He throws so fast for a heavyweight, for a big man like that, you know. It's absolutely insane. Don will say Parker won because the boys are praised by the system. He be no praised by the system. Yeah, that'll be the excuse. That guy needs someone needs to knock that guy out. Someone needs to just lay him out. He deserves it. Yeah, I agree. I think background would probably stop him if the fight was fairly officiated. You know, um, I never believed the Joyce Chin myth. I saw him get stopped badly in the amateurs. That bone density narrative was hilarious. Yeah, he did have a great chin. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the Terminator like people were saying. He wasn't invincible. You know, he did get stopped in the amateurs by Sergey Kuzmin. That was quite brutal, and you know, he's a human being. You know, he's not the Terminator. He's not a machine. He's a human being. You know, so I never, even though it's obvious he had a great chin, you know, it was never something he should rely on. You know, how do you think Crawford would have done versus some of the welters from previous eras? Trinidad, Mosley would. I think he would have a good chance against Cotto. He could like Cotto would probably outbox him, but he could maybe Crawford's strength and power and you know durability might break Cotto down and stop him late. Same with Floyd. I think Crawford could actually break Floyd and maybe stop him late. Mosley stylistically, that's a bad fight. Mosley's a puncher and very very explosive, and I think he would walk Crawford onto punches and probably stop him. Trinidad would probably be an equal fight, but if Trinidad was able to land his left hook consistently, he'd smash him. Paul Williams, I think he's too big. I think he would just outwork and outland Crawford, and it would be too big for him. And he could outbox him at long range too. And De La Hoya, I think technically he might be too good. You know, his lateral movement, he might be able to outbox Crawford. I don't think he'd stop him, but I think De La Hoya would outbox him and win on points. So yeah, against Floyd and Cotto, I give him a good chance to beat them stylistically. I think the others would find a way to beat him personally, you know. Yeah, I agree. I think Batram would stop Crawford, which is why I don't think the fight will happen. Yeah, yeah, Joyce did get chinned in the amateurs. Yo, what's happening, Papa? God bless you, man. Biggest waste of potentials in the sport. One is definitely Ikabe Ibuchi. The obvious one is someone like Dimitri Pirog or what's the other guy that I talked about? Edwin Valero. He was a waste of potential. As well as you know Scott Harrison, you know my old coach, he was he could have done so much better. You know that there's a lot of guys who had their careers cut short and you know really could have done so much better than they did. You know. Oh yeah, yeah. Don knew not to start with Peter Fury. Peter Fury would lay him out with ease. You know. Oh, Chisora versus Wallin. Look, that's just a cynical fight between two guys who are just no hopers. You know, Chisora will probably just swing for the fences and just fall around and stumble all night, and Wallin will just move around him and peck at him with the jab, try to win on points. For me, it's a 50-50 fight. 50-50 fight. You know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The naive Swedish oil driller. Oh yeah, Galotta's another one. Yeah, if he could have kept his head screwed on, he could have been a heavyweight champion. But I know he got like robbed against Chris Bird, and you know he basically quit against Tyson, and you know he just was one of these guys who I don't know, man. He was just a very inconsistent fighter and had mental health issues, you know. But on that note, I think I'm gonna wrap this one up because we've been going for like exactly 3 hours, and I actually might before I go to bed because I'm working tomorrow, unfortunately. Before I go to bed, I might watch a couple of fights or something. Wonder what I'll watch. I'm sure I'll find something. But yeah. Um yeah, let me know what you guys think anyway. I hope you've enjoyed the live. Yeah, it's been fun. We've vented a little bit, we've made some jokes, we've had some laughs, and we've had some fun. So yeah. Oh yeah, you just got here. Nah, it's all good. It's all good, man. Maybe next time. Yeah. Yeah, later, Hawker. It was good to see you, man. Shout out to everybody who stopped by. Again, thanks to the two lads earlier for the contributions, Daz and Pac-Man. I appreciate it. And yeah, God bless each and every one of you. And stay vigilant. Praise be to Jesus. God bless.